Hi, and welcome to the We Need Your Roads podcast, and this is the first part in our two-part end-of-year extravaganza. And first up is our top 10 films of the year episode. I'm Neil, and today I'm joined by all my regulars you've heard this year, OG co-host David Long, our resident sci-fi geek Ben Lord, and our US correspondent Mr. Jose Lopez. How's it going, guys?
Am I last because I'm American?
Yes, Jose.
I'm really well, apart from I've got a cold.
I have a bit of a sore throat as well. I had my Christmas party recently, and yeah, it didn't go well for me.
David, yours sounds like a hangover. Ben's is man flu.
I didn't drink though. It was a karaoke evening.
Oh, see, that was your problem. You didn't have the right social lubricant.
I felt hungover, but without actually drinking.
Yeah, because I messaged you yesterday about the new episode.
Yeah,
Have you promoted the new episode?
I
Our Die
lied.
Hard episode, which is available now. And David was literally like, "Oh, I'm really hungover from no alcohol, just a late
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
a late night, essentially, David.
I
A
lied,
late
yeah.
night.
It was just a light evening.
Oh, dear.
Too much fondue. He went nuts.
Today, we will be giving you our own personal top 10 films of the year before the grand finale, which could go disastrously wrong, where using the power of maths, I will have our final combined We Need Your Roads top 10 films of the year list.
I feel like it's a really important note to put in here that it won't be maths' fault. It'll be yours.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that.
Don't blame science for your mistakes.
I used a pen and paper, and then when that didn't work, I used a calculator, and that still may not be 100% effective.
What, your abacus is broken, is it?
Definitely. However, the first part of any good film list is a brief mention of some of the films that were great, but not great enough to make it into our top 10s. So, welcome to the long list section. David, were there any films this year that did make it into your top 10?
There was hardly any films that like
Did you watch more than 10 movies?
I struggled to put the films together, to be honest. Like, what?
At one point, did you think, is Baldur's Gate cutscenes classed as a film?
If people go back and listen to our like predictions list of what we were really looking forward to movies wise, it's fucking drastically different to what actually ended up being enjoyed.
Or you actually saw?
Yeah, all that as well.
Okay, so moving on quickly then. Ben, films that you have not quite made it into your top 10 list.
I've got quite a few. I'm going to start with I'll start with Asteroid City. Yeah, I know it probably should have been up there, but it was like when I was making my list, and you'll find this in the other list that I had to make as well. Instead of like looking using the power of the internet and seeing everything that was out and everything that I watched, I just tried to recall movies that gave me some sort of emotional response or some sort of like really sort of like powerful moment in the cinema, and it just didn't. It was a great movie. It was everything that you wanted and expected. From
I'll agree with you on that
film.
one, mate. I really liked it. I mean, it's Wes Anderson's latest Wes Anderson film. Yes,
Yeah.
It's a joke that he makes the same film all the time, but if you really like that film, then what does it matter?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Well,
I mean, like,
I would counter that. It's not the same film. It's just set in the same world. Because it's.
I like the fact that it had a bit more in common with some of his earlier films, like Moonrise Kingdom and The Royal Tenenbaums. It's when he has kids in it and like quite a large kid cast. His films are always, I don't know. He's just really good with younger actors and getting those kind of.
I feel like he uses.
performances.
I think like he uses kids like very cleverly, like emotionally. Like it ties you in quicker because like you can empathize with kids like a little bit easier than you can some of his other characters. But like that's not a bad thing. It was a good movie. It was a great movie. It just didn't reel me in like some of these other ones. So I've got that on my list. I've got Bullet Train, which I really enjoyed. I think it was really fun.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I've got Equalizer 3, which wasn't a fantastic movie for me, but like it was the end of a trilogy, which I've really enjoyed. And
Denzel versus Sister Mafia.
Denzel can do no wrong, pretty much. And that series of movies, the first one is fantastic. The second one is brilliant. And this third one was kind of a bit of a damp squib in many places, but it wasn't, it just wasn't quite up there for me. And the last one that I will mention on my quite long list for now will be Dungeons and Dragons, which I know it's made. I know it's made it onto other people's lists. I'm sure it has. So it took me 3 goes to watch it. And I love the subject matter. I love that there's like the nods to the old cartoon. Like it's got everything it needs to have for me, but it just, like I said, it was a bit of an ordeal for me to get through it. And it was funny. It was insane. It was great. It's everything I wanted. It just didn't quite hit all the points that I wanted to.
Wow. Jose, what do you got on your long list?
Oh, well, I'm kind of looking over a lot of stuff. the stuff that didn't make it on the list: Flash, Quantumania, Ant-Man.
What movie was that?
The Flash.
What's that?
That didn't. No, I'm kidding. Those were far from the list. But I realized that again. I'd also like to make a disclaimer. I did not see as many movies as I thought I would, and I mean some of them that I actually did watch. Knock at the Cabin, which is fine. I think it gets a lot of respect though. Air was fine, but I didn't watch Creed 3, Scream, Renfield, RRR, which I think I definitely should have watched because I've heard so many good things. Man, so many like the movie Joyride. I feel like is a good comedy in a time where there's not many comedies coming out.
Yeah, good shout.
I didn't get to watch that. Just a lot of stuff, even that's coming out. Like even right now, we're waiting for that wrestling movie with
Iron Claw, Zac Efron's
Iron
Oscar
Claw.
film. Yeah,
I've been hearing some good reviews, and I'm hoping to catch that actually. So I feel like
that's not out yet this year, man. That's out in the States on like limited run at the minute, and it just had its press previews today, or no, yesterday in the UK. So that's not out officially until like February over here, I think.
For you guys,
for us
so
guys,
from my list,
he's living in the movie's future.
Okay, but Jose, this isn't our what films we really want to see next year list.
Okay. You asked me what's almost made the list. Oh,
Okay.
wait, yeah, you're right.
But films you have seen.
True. Okay, so Knock at the Cabin and Air were both good films, but they were not in my top 10.
Oh my god,
Okay.
Air! I forgot all about Air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Needed to breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, Neil. That was hilarious.
Thank you.
I mean, it's hard to say because there's a lot of films that I like, but to call them a top 10, you just don't really know. And I watched a lot of stuff that's been coming out lately, like last year. So it's hard. It was hard for me to really narrow it down and pick a particular order.
That's a really interesting point, actually, because I've found something quite similar in that, like, there's stuff that I've watched from last year. There's stuff that I've like caught up with. Like we are kind of spoilt for choice with these streaming platforms and stuff where like I'm watching a few things. I can tell you a single thing now I'm mentioning it. But like there was stuff where I was just like, well, yeah, man, like I watched that and it was fantastic. I watched it this year and it was, but it was out last year. So I had to double check when I made my list that I was actually watching stuff, adding stuff from this year to my list.
Yeah. One that I was going to have really high it's hilarious. It was Prey. The Predator sequel.
Predator movie.
Oh yeah.
And I realized, 2022, but I watched it this year, so I was just like, oh man, I really have to pay attention what's coming out.
Well, you won't have this problem next year, guys, because coming up soon we're going to be doing our 2024
because you're cancelling the podcast.
Yes.
Just had enough of your shit. Yeah, we're going to be doing our 2024 preview, and you will have a list of all the films and TV shows coming out next year.
Yes,
with
sir.
trailers attached to it, if there's a trailer for it at the minute.
That sounds like homework.
So,
I'm out. Fuck you. I don't want to see any movies next year.
I know, but I'm the one doing it.
Yeah,
I'm the one doing all the work.
He sounds like
You're
you're
making
doing
us
homework.
watch them though.
I'm just making you watch a trailer, not the film.
No, you're making us watch stuff. I don't want. No, don't force your agenda on me.
God.
I don't know if you guys have this in the UK, but do you guys have the AMC movie watcher plan? Oh, it's just basically a movie plan where you pay a certain fee and you can watch up to 3 movies a week.
That just sounds like a rental.
Except it's all outside of your house. Yeah, you have to go to the theater. But I think I might sign up for that just to be able to.
Oh, is this like the unlimited card? Like unlimited? Yeah.
This is how I see so much, Jose. I've got what's called a Cineworld Unlimited card. I pay £202 a year, and I can see as many films as I want every week.
We're not affiliated in any way
amazing.
with Cineworld.
Although, if you wanted to sponsor this podcast, we would definitely be open to that.
They
And
can't
potentially-
there's cinemas open. They go sponsor shit.
They got like secret screenings and stuff. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Jose, last week I saw Godzilla and the Three Musketeers films.
Yeah, I just never really took the time to. I'm lazy. That's really the answer.
We're all lazy. That's why we do podcasts and not real jobs.
Yeah. Now, we make money? No. We never make any money from this. Jose, do you have any more films other than Air and Knock at the Cabin?
Oh yeah, again, I didn't plan properly, so
Then we will take that as a no and swiftly move on.
I have one film. Can I mention it? Can I mention the
Go
one
ahead.
film? It is Indiana Jones. Yeah, Indiana
Okay.
Jones. Yeah. I forgot all about Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. Enjoyed it.
So that's it.
Can I mention a movie that I did see that I wish I hadn't?
Sure, yeah.
yes.
Okay, and I'm blaming my girlfriend entirely for this one. She saw it on a flight. It was a movie called Hypnotic with Ben Affleck. It was
Yes!
fucking awful.
I've already done a rant about this on the pod this year, Ben.
Have
It's my
you?
most hated film of the year. I was angry watching it.
That's exactly so. My girlfriend texted me, was like, "I've just seen a movie. You're gonna fucking hate it. You have to watch it, and like, please tell me what you think of it." So I had to go to the effort, like, rent it and fucking like and watch it. And I was just like, and she was like rubbing her hands with glee when we FaceTime. She was like, it was so bad. It was like everything that I hate about like time travel movies going wrong and like ultimate like, you know, different.
People
like,
were laughing at it. People were literally laughing at it. The 12 of us in there were laughing at it when we watched it.
God, it was so bad.
Oh, it's another twist. Oh, it's another twist. I don't care. It's all stupid. Okay, let's do a bit on Hypnotic then, as we're here. And I think when we talked about this before, I think David and Jose, you were here, and you were like, "No, you've made me really sound like you want to watch it." I was like, "No, it's not even that bad. It's so bad you will actively just want to claw your eyes out." So
it's not even so bad that it's funny. It's not even so bad because I mean, like, I watched it with like going into it knowing exactly what I was getting without like knowing the plot. Because my girlfriend did such a good job of being like, "Oh, you're gonna fucking hate it," but I want to know how much and what bits of it are gonna wind you up. So yeah, I went into it knowing that it was going to be kind of rubbish, and I was not let down in any way, shape, or form.
It is my only 1-star film of the year.
Wow, we got that many stars.
I mean, I feel generous with that. It gets 1 star because William Fichtner in it at the start is actually good. And at the start of the film, so Ben Affleck's daughter has disappeared. She was kidnapped. And Affleck is a cop on the edge. And then
I'm a cop on the edge.
It's not like gone. It's like it's like his daughter's missing, and he just seems kind of moody about it. Not like, "I've got to get her back. It's going to be everything to me." It's like,
I think he's just moody because he had to be in this film.
Is it like that Ben Affleck meme of him with the cigarette?
Yes,
like,
yes. This whole movie is that.
That's.
And so William Fichtner turns up, and he's a bank robber who can hypnotize you by just talking to you. So he makes a woman take her clothes off in the street. He crashes some cars. I was like, okay, it's Ben Affleck, cop on the edge, versus guy who can hypnotize people. That's a solid B movie. I will quite enjoy that. It doesn't do anything with that afterwards because there's all these stupid reveals. And, oh, by the way, Ben Affleck, I hypnotized myself, and I was the top hypno assassin guy. Oh, so was my wife. It's just fucking ridiculous. Yeah. And the worst of all,
spoilers.
It's written that, honestly, I'm doing everyone a favour.
The director's already spoiled the movie. We can't make it any fucking worse.
Yeah,
don't worry about our spoilers.
It's terrible. Do you know who the director is, sadly? It is Robert Rodriguez.
Wow.
That man has had the biggest.
That doesn't surprise me.
Grace.
I think he's one of the most overrated directors out there.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean,
hey man, that guy did Spy Kids. He's
look, when he started,
doesn't get any
Desperado,
better.
The mariachi trilogy were all great films.
No,
Dusk Till Dawn. No, you don't like the mariachi films?
Nah.
You hurt my feelings there.
See, that's when he was good, though, Ben.
Sorry, not
He's
sorry.
just got. He was good. Then he went and did loads of kids films. Then he did a bit of Star Wars, and even in his
Come on, man. His episodes of the Star Wars things are the worst ones in those. Like he's off the boil.
I saw his name,
like,
and I was just like, "Yes, this is going to be good." And I was like, "Holy shit!" That's like at least even the action was terrible, and that's the one thing you kind of used to rely on Rodriguez to do.
He winds me up so much that in the making of, like, he sat there with his like guitar, like crooning, and I'm like, man, put the fucking guitar away. Yeah, we get it. Actors and directors, you can all play guitar. Fucking good for you. Don't bring it onto the set and try and score with it. What the fuck is your problem, man?
If I ever make a film, Ben is going to be my first AD, who's just a guy who goes around yelling at people to put their shit away and get on with it.
Yeah, I'm fucking excited for that job. You're gonna make that.
All right, guys, let's rein it in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
not.
I think we should clip up Neil's reaction though to Ben saying hypnotic, because it was very like.
And back to my long list, which, deep breath, John Wick 4. So potentially the last chapter in Keanu's dog-loving assassin who thought he was back for just one film and it ended up being 4. For me, that was a high watermark of action films this year. I think director David Leitch he did a brilliant job of staging some really good set pieces. Also, I want a bulletproof.
We're going to be here a while, people. Settle in.
David's chugging the Lucasade as we talk. He needs to keep his electrolytes up. Next, we've got The Royal Hotel, which was his little indie Aussie film that came out a little while ago. And it was based on a real-life documentary called Hotel Coolgardie that is on Amazon at the minute. And it's about 2 young girls from the States who backpack for Australia, and they end up tending bar in a mining town where they are subjected to lots of unwanted male attention. And the 2 girls are Ozark's Julia Garner, Ruth, and Jessica Henwick from Iron Fist. But, she'd probably be rather known for this. And it's a really tense film that does not go in a direction you think it's going to go. I thought it's really clever the way done. Also, Hugo Weaving's in it, playing an old drunk bar owner, and I did not know it was him in the film till the credits, because he's just that unrecognisable in it. Wow. So, yeah, that's definitely worth checking out. We've also got Pearl, Ty West's X prequel that he shot in New Zealand.
That was last year, bro. That one this year.
Come out in the UK this year.
Oh, that would have...
Saw it in the cinema this year, mate.
Oh, the list's already made.
Oh.
Yeah. And but he basically made a prequel to his film X in New Zealand during COVID, because the studio well, I guess you can keep filming because no one else can. So him and Mia Goth just sat down and okay, let's write a prequel. And it's this demented mix of Psycho meets The Wizard of Oz. It also has one of the most unnerving final shots of all time.
Ooh.
We got The Fabelmans, Spielberg's semi-autobiographical tale. It garnered loads of awards attention early on, but it won absolutely nothing at the Oscars. And I quite enjoyed it. Michelle Williams is superb as his kind of mother character, and I loved how later on he realised he could influence people's opinion and make them laugh or cry with the power of film. Another film from earlier this year, Empire of Light, Sam Mendes' new film, and it was a bit muddled, but it dealt with a love of cinema, racism, and mental health in 1980s Margate, of all places. But it features outstanding turns, as expected, from the Queen, Olivia Colman, Colin Firth being a bit of an old perv in this, which was quite funny, and relative newcomer Michael Ward, who's really good. Scrapper. It's writer-director Charlotte Reagan's debut film. It was a charming, inherently British film that dealt with a 12-year-old girl, Georgie, played by an amazing Lola Campbell, who lives on her own after her mother's death, and she dodges council workers and steals bikes with her best friend Ali, until one day her feckless father, Jason, turns up, played by Harris Dickinson, and he arrives on the scene. It's kind of like this father-daughter trying to bond, but they don't really like each other kind of deal. And it's a bit like a more upbeat version of last year's After Sun, which was a film that obviously launched Paul Mescal into the stratosphere. It's kind of got that father-daughter vibe storyline going on there. Talk to Me, a barnstorming debut by the Aussie YouTube brothers Danny and Michael Philippou, crafted a brilliant horror film about a possessed hand that teenagers use to get high by letting it possess them for 90 seconds and no longer, because of course if you do that, things could go wrong. Spoiler, things do go wrong. The film also has a fantastic ending, one of the best I've seen in a horror film for ages.
Are we talking about the horror film or Bottoms?
That's a horror film. Bottoms, which is the next film on my long list. Have you seen Bottoms, Jose?
No, but you went from talking about one movie to the other without really transitioning.
Bottoms.
Keep saying bottoms. It's funny.
Bottoms. Bottoms is Emma Seligman's second film after Shiva Baby, and it has that film star Rachel Sennett and the Bears' Ayo Edebiri in it as two high school loser lesbians who start a girls-only fight club so they can hit on popular cheerleaders. It honestly is the year's best comedy and spectacularly violent. That's all you need to know. Just go and see it, honestly. Wow. It's one of the funniest films you'll see this year. I actually heard an interview recently where Seligman interviewed Edgar Wright on stage for a Scott Pilgrim special. And she's literally like, some of the fight scenes in Bottoms are just influenced by so much of Edgar Wright's work as well. And it's just so funny. It's just an amazing film. Got Napoleon, Ridley Scott's slightly uneven portrait of the famous Frenchman. Do you know what? It's less historical epic drama as you expect. And it's more like, it's kind of evenly split between Napoleon, played by Joaquin Phoenix, as a bit of a sex pest with his like strained relationship with his wife, and then him just being really good at using cannons. So it's like strange relationship scene and cut to him at war blowing people up with cannons. Strange relationship scene, and that's pretty much the whole film, but it is very entertaining. It's a lot funnier than I ever thought it would be for that type of film. Also has one of the lines of the year in him sitting at his dinner table, having a cob on with his wife and saying, "Destiny has brought me these pork chops."
Density.
My density has brought me these pork chops. We then have Infinity Pool. Brandon, son of David Cronenberg, and this is his second film, stars Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, 2 for 2 in crazy horror films this year, and it's a proper body horror film in the best possible sense. Without copying his old man David Cronenberg, but it's really similar. Also, I've never seen a film be so scary with a woman just shouting a man's name over and over again. Honestly, if you're called James, I feel really sorry for you, because that film would just be stuck in your head forever. I'm not actually going to say any more about it, but it's a great, great film. And I'm done. I'm spent.
Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing that you've got all these scripts and we just went, I saw Bullet Train. It was all right.
Yeah.
Or you and me and we're like, oh, no, yeah, I don't have a list.
I feel it gives the listener a bit more of a palette. We have different opinions and so. And now we are on to the lists, ladies and gentlemen. So, David, we're going to start with you.
I've got to pronounce the name of this film, and I'm going to
And
get
at number
it wrong.
10, David, you have a film that was released in 2022, technically, but you get away with it because it is released in the UK in 2023.
Yeah, thank you. It is the Shudder horror film Skinamarink.
Which sounds like a skin condition.
I honestly could not tell you what the fuck this film was about. I mean,
Okay.
I've watched it twice now. Honest to Christ, it's one of those. The reason why it's so high up on my list is because I've not seen a film like it, and I think with a lot of cinema, it's all very much the same. There's nothing that's really like completely different from what you're seeing everywhere else. This just did something with a camera and with a little bit of editing. That's basically all it was. It was just a few shots, and that's it, of empty space, of feet moving, of little kids talking like in muffled voices.
How long was the movie?
That's the film. It does go on a bit. It goes on for about. It's not like huge long, but it's an hour and 40 minutes according to IMDb. But it's one of those which is like it'll feel like 3 hours.
I'd say by the way you're describing, it's all B-roll.
It's not. It's basically, yeah. It is. The film's meant to be like this psychological horror film from the perspective of two children that are stuck in the parents' house, and it's like very dreamlike, and it's very
experimental.
It's
the word I've heard.
It is definitely experimental. It's completely bonkers. You can't actually say what it's about because
gives it away.
No, because honestly, it's one of those films that you've got to watch, and then you're like, oh yeah, I ain't got a fucking clue what that's about either.
Oh, I hate those. I hate those kind of films. The ones you got to watch. Fuck.
They wake up in a house. These children, all the doors and the walls and all the doors are missing, and all the windows and like there's no windows on the house. They're like stuck in like this boxed house, and they're looking for their dad. That's the film, and it's a horror film. And it's just basically loads of random shots of like a corner of a room, of blood dripping, of a TV, of a phone, the fucking scariest toy phone you've ever seen in your life.
It sounds like a shooting film, you know.
It is. It's very much. It is a shoot. It basically is. It is a shooting film.
If I'm ever laid low with a cold and have like a really bad fever, I might watch it sometime because I feel that's the best way to watch that type of film.
You definitely need to watch it in the pitch black, because if you watched it the first time I watched it, it was like sunny day. You can hardly see fucking anything. It was like watching Game of Thrones, the Battle of Winterfell. You can't see anything. So you definitely need to see it in the dark. Anyway, it made it on my list because I'd not seen anything like it. Yeah.
Fair enough. And that is a recommendation, I guess. And Ben, what do you have at your number 10?
Number 10 for me is John Wick Chapter 4.
Nice.
Yes. The Keanu Reeves romp through everything that is violent and RSPCA approved. It was just like, for me, it was just a banger of a movie. I saw it like when it came out, like with a bunch of friends. You know, we all went. It was just you know what you're getting with those movies. You know, there was no pretense. They know what they are, and you know some of the set pieces and some of the scenes. You know, like the fight on the like at the top of I think it's the Champs-Elysees, but you know the roundabout at the top of Paris. Like it was amazing. You know. The excessive falling down the stairs at the end, like it definitely put me off. I was just like, come on, man, like even I could stop myself from falling down all of those stairs.
What I thought it did really well was because you think when it was almost 3 hours long, wasn't it? I just remember thinking, how do they do this without it getting boring and repetitive?
Yeah.
And they managed it because every set piece was just different enough from the last one, whether it be, and it was always just on the edge of laughable, like the falling down the stairs scene, but the noises and the sound editing was so crunch, and you're wincing with every fall, you know.
Yeah.
And so
also like the bits that weren't the all out action, like when he goes to the he goes to have the meeting with the high table, the guy at the high table, and you're like the Eiffel Towers in the background and stuff, and it's all places that that you sort of recognize and have either been to or seen in a million other places, but just framed differently and done really, really well. Also, like
nice.
like I don't know if it's Keanu Reeves' most successful word for word wage. Like, because like he's said about 50 things in this movie, like 50 words, and he got paid millions for it. So if you calculate how much like per money
per
per
line.
word, yeah, he's probably like pound for pound the richest person this year
per word. Yeah.
per word. Yeah.
Can I jump in since this is also
man.
my top 10? Mine Wick for me was in number 9, so it's pretty close. I'd say it could have been higher. But for me, the staircase scene was something that took me out of it. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go twice, but then for some reason, the second time he can go through it a lot faster. But I mean,
He had the power of friendship.
yes. And I mean, I do enjoy these movies. I love the fight scenes. I do give them credit for being innovative. But something that I saw when I went back to the original that is a lot more evident in the sequels. I think 3 really took it seriously, was the choreography. And when I say choreography, I mean it to me it just seemed too obvious, the choreography. They did great movements, but it seemed very staged to me. And I think 4 did a better job, but it still was very evident. And I think 3 was the peak of that for me, but 4 did it better. But it just, because some of these scenes, like especially in the earlier part of the movie where they were invading the hotel and the other henchmen had bulletproof suits as well, I'm like, all right, how long is this supposed to last? I enjoy the fights, but I'm like, okay, should we just settle to baseball bats at this point? Because bullets don't seem to affect you at all. But I mean, like,
Scorsese.
Yeah,
I blame video games. I feel like the whole John Wick thing with bulletproof suits is like when you're in the moment in the video game, like, you can get shot a bunch of times and it just like makes your screen flash red, and you're all right. You can carry on going. And I feel like John Wick has taken that on board and been like, well, how can we have that kind of video game jeopardy in a movie? And I feel like that was like the cleanest and quickest way they could do it.
Yeah, and as much as I like the series, I feel like this is an example of me just liking the original way more, because even though it's a much simpler and early in development in terms of what they ended up doing, it still works and there's still more stakes at hand.
Do you know what I'd say? Quickly, let's do our John Wick rankings. I'm going to go in order. Number 1 for number 4. Number 4, I'm going to have number 3. At number 3, I'm going to have number 2. I'm going to have number 4 at number... No, I'm going to have number 1 at number 2. And I'm going to have John Wick 4 at number 1, because I thought that was my best. I loved it.
Did anyone else follow that? Because I fucking I didn't know.
I'm going to do mine now. At number 1, I have 33. At 3, I have 96. If you divide that by 7 and then use the square root of John Wick, that's my answer.
What is your number 10?
My number 10 is, funny enough, The Killer.
I
watched it with my dad, and I laughed because I told him, "Hey, Dad, we want to watch a fun action movie by this good director."
Oh,
and
right.
It was not.
And you got The Killer.
And we got The Killer. And again, it was actually a really good movie. And it wasn't until after the fact that I thought about it. I'm like, okay, the whole point wasn't the action; it was about how meticulous he was. And in a way, it just shows you a more quote unquote realistic process to an assassin having to go through and find their targets, and I'm a very much meticulous person when it comes to certain things, so I really appreciate it looking back.
Contract killing.
Yes, exactly.
They did go to Florida in the film, Jose. I'm just saying.
They did. Not representative of our cities, but more of like the internal areas. Yeah, I'll just keep it to that.
You didn't want him to go to the place where you live because he burnt that house down, man. That place went down.
Yes.
Did they go to the villages?
No. Oh, you know what? One thing that they try to show is that they went to a casino. There's only 2 casinos in the state, and it was not one of that one was not representative.
I want to retire at the villages. That's where I want to be. That sounds like my kind of lifestyle.
Says the youngest guy on the podcast talking about retirement already.
I mean, Florida is the place to go to retire, though, right?
Yeah, to be fair.
Yes. Because the good weather, it's mostly warm throughout the entire year, except for about a month.
So The Killer, Jose, is the new David Fincher film that he made for Netflix, and it's written also by Andrew Kevin Walker, who also wrote Seven with him. And I love that you get a lot of the film is his internal monologue. You get those repeated mantras that Fassbender's character is going through. But do you know what it reminded me of a little bit at the start? Barry. Not in the comedy sense, but in that it shows you the mundanity of a professional killer's life. Like, the whole opening scene was just him sat there for days waiting for the shot. And it reminded me of the very, very first episode of Barry when, you see him doing the same, waiting to kill someone. Then he's like in commercial on the way back. But he can't fly home. He's got to fly to a different state and then fucking get a bus back to where he lives because he's that good at being But yeah, no, I like The Killer, man. Although, if you could have picked any band to have a soundtrack, it could have been anyone other than the Smiths.
Oh, I thought that was hilarious. When I started hearing the Smiths and recognized it, I'm like, why is this is so...
I will say, to be fair, though, they did match up the song lyrics really well to the scenes. So fair play on that. But I was like, the Smiths, fine.
What do you have against the Smiths?
Nothing. I don't actively like or dislike them. They're just they're a band that exists.
I think it adds to the character's background. You're like, okay, this guy's a little off if this is only what he listens to.
Well, yeah, I thought that played to his OCD or his whatever on the spectrum he is. Like he has these mantras that he has to stick to, and he listens to the one band, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And I think it's really nice to see Fassbender and stuff again. He
took 2 years off, didn't he, to race cars?
Well,
is that what it was?
Wow, I didn't know that. So he's now called Michael Fastbender.
Fastbender. Well, moving on from The Killer, my number 10 is Past Lives. And this is one of the potential big hitters at next year's Oscars. It's yet another A24 film who would just be cleaning up. And it's a debut film from the South Korean-Canadian writer and director Celine Song. And it's this kind of gentle romance about two childhood friends, Nora and Hae Sung, played by Greta Lee and T. Yo, who, after Nora and her parents immigrate to Canada, they kind of reconnect at various points throughout their lives. She's got her life in Canada and then the US, and then Hae Sung's got his life in South Korea and then in China. And it feels really Richard Linklater to me, in that the film is purely about these moments in time with these two people. And, you check back every few years, which is very Boyhood as well. Now, obviously, with Boyhood, he came back and shot a little bit of the film for 12 years. Song doesn't do that, but this film does feel like a bit of a mashup of Before Sunrise and Boyhood for me. It's a very understated film with real naturalistic, internalized performances that make us feel like you're really peeking in on these people's lives as you're seeing these scenes. Safe to say, this film is really deeply personal to Song, and it feels like a heightened version of her own life. And it's that personal connection by Song to her characters that makes this film work so deeply on an emotional level, because most of the story of the characters is her story growing up as an immigrant from South Korea in Canada and all that. And as fantastic as this film is, I think it's very much an art house crowd and critics film. Anyone going in expecting something, it's a romance like The Notebook or any other kind of thing, they're going to be disappointed, because this is a film that's very internalized. The biggest emotions and biggest moments of the film, they're conveyed without dialogue, and it'll be something as simple as a head tilt or a stolen look. I think this could be in the running, though, for Best Original Screenplay, and Greta Lee is definitely going to get nominated for Best Actress for it. But again, I think, just like Linklater's work, films that deal with the minutiae of life tend to get ignored at the Oscars, because it's always about films where a character's got to overcome big obstacles or oppression. Quieter, more reflective films like Past Lives just don't get a look in, because I think for award ceremonies, why do we want to show actual, a really good representation of actual life? But they absolutely should. So, if you want a really slow-moving, gentle romance, this is a film that's really good.
Boom.
Well done.
And at number 9, David, you have a film that is
Totally Killer.
Except it's not.
Yeah, no, dude, I enjoyed it.
Ooh.
You didn't watch it properly.
I did. I watched it once, and that was enough. It was fine.
All right, let's let David explain.
Come on, David, explain. Show you're working.
It is Back to the Future meets
Scream.
Any slasher film ever. Scream, yeah, let's say Scream.
Yeah, so it's your favourite film of all time and my favourite film of all time.
Combined! How can you not like that?
Because it's nowhere as good as either of them.
Girl goes, but look, it's got all of the same things that you get in Back to the Future. So, he meets the parents. Oh no, the mum's a bit of a bitch instead of super sexy and, wants to shag her.
And the dad's a meathead instead of a geek.
And
right?
the dad's a bit of a meathead. And but so it's got all the same stuff that you get in any basic time travel thing where they go back in time and they're interacting with their parents.
The time travel method literally doesn't matter at all, because their friend just invents a time machine.
Yeah, just doesn't matter. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah. You don't need a DeLorean or anything like that.
You need plutonium, man.
Man, you just need you just need some metal or whatever it was that they were missing, which made complete sense. But I fucking really enjoyed it. And so my list is based off of not films that I think are good, but it's films that I enjoyed the most, which is what
That's
I.
the spirit. That's the spirit of these films.
Can I just interject there and just say, if you enjoy them, surely you would think they were good.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah. Yes.
Not necessarily.
I mean-
I thought this film was good, but not necessarily. I think that
You've just confused me, like Neil's number thing.
No.
Like, so if you think food, if you enjoy a meal, do you go, man, that meal was shit? That was I
Depends how hungry
enjoyed
I
that
am.
meal, but I don't think it's good.
It depends how hungry I am. You know,
I-
if I ain't ate for a week, I'm gonna think anything's fucking good.
All
So
right,
what you're
that's
saying
fair.
is you hadn't watched the film for 3 months because the bell doesn't get free.
So yeah,
And then
there
this
we
is
go.
the first thing you
And
saw
then I watched Totally Killer, and it was fucking awesome.
because you forgot what films are.
You're in a drought. I get it. I get it.
No, what I'm saying is I'll put a 3-star film ahead of a 5-star film in my list because I enjoyed watching it more than said 5-star film.
Yeah, because you would go back and watch his 3-star film
Yeah,
again as an
yeah,
easy
yeah.
watch rather than
It's got better rewatchability than the 5-star film, which is objectively the better film. But
Mm.
so yeah,
Killers of the
Totally
Flower
Killer.
Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon.
I
Wow.
really enjoyed
All
it.
right, sorry, I couldn't help
And
myself.
Jose clearly has something he wants to say.
Anything about Totally Killer, Jose?
No, I saw the premise and I did want to watch it. Another movie I wanted to watch.
Do you know what though? The premise is also ripped off spectacularly from a film called The Final Girls that we talked about a little while ago, and
did
that's done
mention
better.
I mean, it wasn't, but yeah.
It was.
Is that also Back to the Future meets Scream?
You've seen The Final Girls, David. We
It's
had
not.
this conversation on the
I
pod.
know. I've seen them both, and I disagree.
Can we just stop comparing? We stop comparing this like really average fucking Amazon Prime
Oh,
movie to Back to the Future, which is one of the greatest movies of all time,
yeah,
as
trilogies.
trilogies of all time, as well. You know, because you basically named the podcast after it, and
Yeah.
also
Yes, sir.
Scream, which pisses all over this movie from a very, very great height, and I am not a horror fan. Like this was like it was like a really like ham-fisted attempt at putting
Bland.
these things together. Like it was for me, it was just as beige as you can get. It was a great idea, and I think that's what annoyed me. It was like
Ah,
I reckon the producers or the writers, like whoever had the idea, they literally went into like the producer office, went, "What if it's Back to the Future meets Scream?" And all the execs
That was
were like,
exactly what they did.
yeah.
yeah.
And then it's like, "Oh, have you got a script?" No, we'll figure it out as we go
We'll just take the best bits from that movie and best bits from that movie, and
and make them shit. I mean, look, I'll agree with David. It's an easy watch. Like I watched it and I was entertained,
It's a fun film.
but I'm sorry, you can't invoke two of the greatest films of all time.
yeah,
and
It
Parodies
doesn't
not
do.
funny, man.
Obviously, it's not as good as either of those films,
No,
but it's still a fun film.
it's not even
and
as good as
I
any of the
enjoyed
sequels to any of
watching
those
it.
films.
I'd watch this film again over The Killer, for instance, which isn't on my list.
Right.
Would you watch it again over what is ahead of it on your list? Giving it
Only
nothing?
one film which I did lie about, but yeah.
Oh,
Right.
caught him in a
Oh.
lie.
So we're moving on, and So Ben, what do you have at number 9?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me at number 9. James Gunn's trilogy bookend, the sci-fi juggernaut comes to a screeching halt there. You got Baby Groot, a great bad guy, passing of the baton. It's pretty much everything you need from a trilogy. You know, like we've all come to know and love these characters if you're a Marvel fan. And quite frankly, it was the only Marvel movie that I really gave a shit about this year.
There was 3, wasn't there, this year? There was Quantum Mania, this, and the Marvels.
Yeah.
I agree on you on that. That's the only Marvel movie worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, if
This
you
year.
if you have to watch
This
a
year.
Marvel movie this year, I would say make it that one and leave the other two alone.
Although
like-
Ben, I'm a little upset because you're making me talk about all my movies ahead of time because I have this on my list as well.
Oh,
I think it's on everyone's, isn't it?
On my list, it's actually third.
Well, dive in, Jose. Dive in.
Because of the 3 movies. The first one was just a good one. The second one I couldn't relate to, but this one I did relate to mostly because of the loss, the emotion in it, and I think we've all wanted to see what the Raccoon Rocket's past was. So
Yeah, man.
I think that's what movies like. I'm gonna veer off a little bit. I think that's what movies do is they're favorites to people for different reasons, and that's why I don't give David a lot of crap about his choice for number 10 because he enjoyed it for his reasons. And for me, Guardians of the Galaxy I know is a great film and a lot of people enjoy it, but I have different reasons for putting it so high than other people.
I put it's also number 3 for me, Jose.
Hey,
there we go. So now we can just shit on Ben.
well, for having it at
Wow.
number
Having it at number 9.
9. That's so low. So
Well,
low.
it is also on my list, in my top 10, and it is in number 6 on my list.
Yes.
And I mean, come on, look, James Gunn closed out the trilogy perfectly, man. I think with you, Jose, I think 1 was amazing. I loved 1. I thought 2 wasn't quite as good, but I still thought 2 was absolutely solid and really well done. And I thought 3 just nailed it. Although the only thing I didn't really like with 3 was that it was a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. Because remember, beforehand, they were teasing it's the last film. So the whole way through the film, they're just teasing you, oh, this character's going to die. This character's going to die. No, what do? Spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They kill a CGI otter, and fuck you, James Gunn, for making me cry about a CGI otter.
No.
Part of the reason I think 3 is so good is because 2 was weaker. Like one still stands up now. If anybody's going to ask me which Guardians of the Galaxy movie to watch, I'm going to say 1 straight away.
Yeah.
Not only because it gives you everything you need to move into the rest of the trilogy, but like Neil just said, it's 2 wasn't as strong. It's still a great movie, but it wasn't quite as strong.
Yeah.
And I think that 3 is only it's this low on my list because I think it's only this good because 2 wasn't that great. So I don't.
It relies on the other movies too much.
It has to make up some ground. It has to prop itself up a little bit. And if you watch 3 without watching 1 and 2, I don't think you'd give a shit about the characters as much.
Correct.
I also think it stands out in a really weak time for Marvel as a whole. Like a really weak time for the MCU.
I gotta say that's a great observation. Because of what we even started the conversation with other 2 movies not being good, this is the one to watch. You're right.
Overall, right, I mean, I really enjoyed it. This was my most anticipated film of the year, and luckily I got away with it because June got delayed. Otherwise, that would have been crazy. Would have been crazy, David. But look, it's a great film. It's a really good emotional closure to the trilogy. It's not 100% perfect. I think in trying to fairly balance out satisfactory ending arcs to all the characters, it means not every character gets the full shine. And chief amongst them, I thought Peter actually just randomly decides at one point that he has family on Earth and decides to leave. And returns to Earth after 1 conversation with Mantis. And I appreciate that they didn't put him back with Gamora. But again, like you just said earlier, Ben, they had to do some course correction as well, because obviously these characters have been used in the Infinity War films.
Did Endgame kind of screw that whole Peter's back on Earth ending a little bit?
Some people think so. Some people do.
Because...
I think it made it a little more complicated, but it couldn't have been. I think it could have been fixed.
Yeah, because it was meant to be like this whole emotional, oh, he's back on Earth, oh, he's going to visit his family again kind of thing, but he'd been on Earth already.
Yeah, but he was on Earth for a funeral. At the end of that movie, he's probably felt sad. He just lost his girlfriend. He's going through a lot. Actually, you're right. If there's any time for family, then that would be it. But some would argue that the crew are his family. So I don't know.
Yeah,
tricky one.
Yeah. So basically, we all love Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So Jose, moving on to your number 9, which is
John Wick. We spoke about it.
So at number 9, I have Barbie.
Barbecue.
The biggest film of the year. And hey, I think everyone went to see Barbie, right? Did we all see Barbie?
Yeah, I saw Barbie. It's on my list.
Right.
I haven't seen Barbie.
It's on my list.
How dare you?
I know.
How dare you? So the message of the film is pretty simple overall, right? Everyone should be treated equally, men and women. And going too far to the extreme in either case is a bad thing. Also, it highlights pretty much, there's still, unfortunately, a lot of work to do in the real world. You only have to take a look at some of the real life. Actually, this was from my original review earlier on. There was do you remember at the time we reviewed this? I think it was you and me, Jose, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm,
and there was that guy. We're not going to give his name credit. He literally did a 43-minute takedown video on YouTube.
Yeah,
and just said, "Guy who's a knob destroys Barbie." And I was like, "Dude, I think you are missing the point of life." And he actually reinforcing the point of this movie even more. The fact that you do stupid shit like this. As I said, I don't think you need to go going into this. I when we predicted it, I didn't think it was going to be a straight ahead kids movie. It wasn't going to be that surface level, Barbie film that we was expecting. Because if you get Greta fucking Gerwig to direct and co-write with her partner Noah Baumbach, who have created some crazy shit down the years, you're not getting a traditional Barbie film. And there's going to be some clever messaging going on beneath the surface. And boy, did this film deliver. I mean, you had your spoof of 2001. That was pretty much the opening scene in the first teaser. I love the message that the birth of Barbie can be seen as a birth of a new kind of woman, as the kids smash the boring old doll to pieces. I sadly do actually have the Matchbox 20 album with Push on it.
So do I.
And I don't know what
Of
says.
course.
So does Ben. Yay!
Yep. Matchbox 20 are cool.
Are they, Ben?
Yeah. Come on,
Hey,
man.
we're allowed
Rob-
to have guilty pleasures. Come on.
Right.
I don't know what this is. Sorry, what is this?
Matchbox 20 is a band.
Ah, okay.
And they have a song, David, called Push.
That was a great part of the movie. That was a really great part of the movie as well.
Yeah, it was a great part of the movie. It also makes the band more relevant than they've been since 1996. I also thought America Ferrera's Gloria was a superb character. She's like one of the few real-world women in the film. And again, that monologue she has at the end, just about everything women have to deal with, was just, you could see, like, if you looked around the cinema, like any girl or woman watching that film, it's like, fuck yeah. Like, that literally, it was so well written to just nail all the shit, like, women have to go through. And hopefully it opened a few men's eyes at the same time as well. I love, there's one bit that just made me crack up as well. My fun for me, and it's probably a random bit when in a film that's got so many comedic bits, but it's America Ferrera's Gloria's character's daughter, Sasha, just does this brilliant takedown of how modern girls view the traditional Barbie toys. And she's got this line like, "You've been making women feel bad about themselves since you were invented." And then she calls Barbie a fascist. And it results in the best comeback. And she goes, just Barbie turns like, she's just sitting there like distraught on a bench going, "She thinks I'm a fascist. I don't even control the railways or the flow of commerce." And that line had me in fucking stitches, man. The way she delivered that line was like the gun rack line from Wayne's World.
Oh god, it's such a good moment. Just such a good moment.
For me, it's the perfect blend of Gerwig's indie sensibilities, and it still delivers a brilliantly weird mainstream blockbuster. And fair play to Mattel and Warner Brothers for letting Gerwig go full weird on it.
I've seen some interviews, and they did have conversations between the writers and Mattel. But what's interesting is they wrote the script first, completed it, and then showed it to them. And then as they were filming, they're like, "Hey, are you sure you're good with this?" And they're like, "Yeah, we just like." I think what I saw Margot Robbie explaining was that a lot of times it was just trying to show them how it would be on screen, because sometimes the nuance isn't as obvious on print. So when she's explained that on phone calls, she'd explain the scene, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's funny. That's fine." So it was never any real pushback in terms of like they outright disliked something in the movie, but they were just asking for explanations of how things were going to be put into play.
I mean, I remember seeing an interview, and they said that we cannot believe we got the last line in the film.
Oh god, that was so funny. That was so funny.
Yeah. I mean, I forget what's the rating on the movie. It does
12, are you?
Yeah. So technically, everything is there's no aggressiveness or vulgarity or anything, but it's just people being true and into the way. It was very dark at points because of how introspective it got. But I think
the patriarchy and horses.
Yeah, I think I really honestly respected the movie because of the way it was so blatantly honest with its observations on society, and that's, for me, it's my number 2 movie.
Wow.
And yeah. And I think it's because of all the things you mentioned. Greta Gerwig is a great writer, director. And this movie could have been a lot more of a fluff piece, so to speak, with the content they used.
Yeah, with the wrong production team and like all that.
But they decided to take the risks and
they fucking nailed it, Jose.
They nailed it, honestly. I think one of the funniest moments that I liked was when there's a scene with Margot Robbie saying she felt ugly, and then what the voiceover is like, "Yes, we know how ironic it is to have Margot Robbie saying she feels ugly."
You don't cast Margot Robbie if you want regular Barbie, or something like that.
And what was her name?
Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren. You got that as a freaking voiceover for the movie. That's amazing. Like, these people wouldn't be attached to this film if it wasn't great writing.
But it's also it also shows you what they were trying to do as well. Like they were trying to make a statement like from the start. But I think the thing for me, obviously, Barbie's number 7 on my list, so we're coming up to that for me as well. But I always want to mention when this movie comes up how incredibly well placed Ryan Gosling was.
Oh,
yes.
Like without him in that role, maybe like I don't know who else could have done it. The way that he's super into Barbie at the start of it, and then like he goes to the man's world, and like the bit that killed me was where he's in the hospital. He's like, can I go and do surgery on that guy? And she's like, no. He's like, yeah, but I'm a man. And like, it's the way that he carries that bit off, and he's like, oh, I'll talk to that guy over there, and he just walks off, and she's like, no, what are you, huh? But like little gems like that, little gems like that are like it were just perfectly placed. And Ryan Gosling, absolutely, he delivers where he needs to deliver, but he also backs off really, really well, and he lets the scenes breathe. And he's like, him and Margot Robbie have this incredible back and forth. I thought it was just brilliant.
Ryan Gosling, for the longest time, has been one of my favorite secret comedians. If you've ever seen the SNL sketches he's been in,
yes.
My favorite is the one with the typeface. Crap, I just blanked on that.
I don't know that one. I remember the Christmas one. That's like he gets really overexcited to see Santa, and it goes all a bit Pulp Fiction-y.
Oh wow,
that's really worth watching.
There's also the one where he gets abducted by aliens, and
that's brilliant. That's Kate McKinnon. Yeah, Kate McKinnon's alien abduction sketches are just a work of pure genius.
Yes,
no one can keep a straight face when she does them. Like, yes, she. I think the idea with those sketches is for her to make everyone break.
Yes,
Gosling can't keep a straight face.
The point is that Gosling, he's only had one very obvious comedic role in The Nice Guys, and everything else has had subtle shades of comedy. Him in Crazy Stupid Love, again, had shades of funniness, but he wasn't the main funny actor. Steve Carell took over that. So to finally see him be very obviously funny is just great for me, and I really enjoyed the movie because of him as well.
Because of Robbie being one of the producers, they said she didn't, if it was a different producer or different lead actress in it, they might have felt that Gosling was getting too much, but she knew he had to have that much of the film for her part to work. And, she knew, it was just brilliant work by her as a producer to realise exactly how the roles needed to be shared out to get that exactly what we got in the end. And, she could have just come in and it could have been all about regular Barbie, but no, she shared out all the good stuff to the whole cast in it. And again, that's just a mark of a really good producer. Moving on, we are at number 8, David, and your number 8 is...
Hello again. I'm back. I've not seen Barbie, so had nothing to input. My number 8, I think, needs a little bit of backstory to it. So the film's The Haunted Mansion that came out on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might be wondering, why is that on the list at all? Let alone, like, slightly higher on the list.
You like Disney stuff, David?
No, I do like Disney stuff. So, but okay. So, we watched this just after we come back from our honeymoon, where we went to Disney World, and I was going to meet up with the lovely Jose, but we didn't, because he lives like 30 minutes away.
No, an hour and a half. But...
An hour and a half. Okay, but still quite.
But it's more than that.
8-9 hours away, like we are at the moment. And I was watching it with my wife, and it was one of those films where you're like pointing out everything. You're like, oh my god, there's the thing from this part of the ride, and oh my god, there's the thing from that part of the ride. And it was just such an enjoyable experience that we had with the two of us. I mean, the actual film as a whole, if you're looking at it objectively, it's like it's not a great film, but the enjoyment that we had in the moment watching it was a lot of fun. The film's about a mum and a son, a little boy, who hires a bunch of different type of people. So a priest, a photographer, a historian, and somebody else. Basically, all coming together to the Haunted Mansion to do an exorcism, because it's just, filled with different types of ghosts.
David, all you have to tell me is it better than The Exorcist Believer? Because it probably is.
Well, I enjoyed it more than The Exorcist Believer as an exorcism film. Obviously, not as scary.
You know what this sounds like? 13 Ghosts.
Oh.
13 Ghosts.
That's one of David's trigger films.
My dude, that is... I can't watch it because it scares me so much. It was the first horror film I ever watched. And I can't take baths because of that film.
I'm sorry, I laughed.
Like, do you know, like there's the sexy ghost lady that's in the bath all covered in blood. Dude, wow. I can only take showers. That film fucked me up. That and E.T. Man, I can't go on bikes. Yeah, can't go on bikes.
Can't go on bikes.
Now I'm questioning your words, but I have to admit, 13 Ghosts, I laugh, but I do enjoy that movie. That is really one of the first horror movies I really enjoyed watching.
That is one of the best bits of shade I've ever heard Jose throw right there.
No, genuinely, E.T. did really fucking scare me. I was only brave enough to watch it when I was about 20, 21.
I don't trust your words, David.
And but anyway, Haunted Mansion, was my number 8. Yeah,
it's on Disney Plus, so I will give it a go. And like you say, David, it's on your list because you've got that personal connection to it from your honeymoon.
Exactly.
So it should always be.
Some might say he thinks it's good.
He thinks it's good. And Ben, moving on to your number 8.
My number 8. I really like this movie. And if you want to give it away, that's it. It's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, probably the longest title on my list. All right. Neil seems to be having some sort of reaction. Do we need an ambulance before we carry on?
I hope
I'm
not.
good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, this is the 7th film in what I like to call the Tom Cruise death accident on set waiting to happen trying to be James Bond movies. I fucking love these movies. I think that it's like when they first popped their heads up, years and years and years ago, that first Mission Impossible movie, it was a really good take on the series, and it was just a real, it could almost have been like a throwaway. But the sheer fact that they've got to 7 movies because of bringing in people like Simon Pegg, to flesh out the cast and stuff was a genius move. So yeah, I think that this movie in particular, with it being what I've written here as a cautionary tale of AI on Russian submarines, and it's as relevant as you're going to get an action movie of this genre right now. Like everybody's throwing the AI thing around quite heavily. At what point does it get to the level where we're going to get War Games? It's kind of cautionary. It's not really, it's like, are we going to get to that? Maybe we will. Who knows? But it's also just an all-out action Christopher McQuarrie gem for me. They've backed themselves into a corner with I feel like the writers' room is like, cool. What fucking ridiculous, stupid shit can we get Tom Cruise to do now?
We're going to send him into space.
We're going to put him. Yeah, we're going to literally launch him into space. Almost. And he hangs on the side of a taking off aeroplane at one point. On this one, he jumps off of a fucking enormous cliff top with a parachute on his back. And, he's like, oh, I'm going to do all my own stunts. I saw a thing they were filming in London the other day, and he was on top of a moving Range Rover or something going high speed. And he just swings off it like he's on some sort of grappling hook. And I was like, fuck me, that's probably not even one of the big scenes in the movie. I just love that they keep pushing the boundaries, and they're they watch everything that else is happening, and they're like, cool, right, so John Wick's done that. We've got these Spider-Man movies that are kicking ass and people doing great stuff in. We've got all these other movies that are trying to up the ante in action, and Tom Cruise will just come along and go, yeah, cool. What do you want me to do? You want me to dangle off of one leg over a shark-infested waters, while trying to defuse an actual live bomb? Yeah, I'll do that. That's no problem, guys. I got you.
Funny enough, that'll be our next Photoshop Twitter post.
Good luck with
David,
that. Got to render
it. Actually, with AI,
they're just really fun movies, and I really enjoyed where this one went. And it was a part 1, so obviously it drew me in, and then it stopped, and I was like, well, fuck you, part 1.
I think they've changed the naming, haven't they?
That's
Dead Reckoning.
I think it's part 1, but I think when the second one comes out, they're not going to call it Dead Reckoning Part 2. They're going to give it a different name because I think they realised that because it didn't do as well at the box office. I mean, it got released the week before the
Barbie
Behemoth, which kind of fucked it a little bit. I think it would have made more money if it had come out at a different time of the year for sure.
I'm going to mention it because it's my number 6. I pulled a David because this isn't the best Mission Impossible. It's great. I had a great time watching it, and it actually pulled emotions from me that are negative. I really cared about this one character, and I'm like, now they're no longer part of the movie series, and I'm like, it's not very often that a movie series can do that for me. Sometimes movie series are like, oh, they kill off a character. Well, that sucks. But this time I'm like, I was really invested. So I think that's why I enjoyed this movie, but it's more of an emotional bump in the rankings for me than anything else.
Yeah, I think for me, what made Mission Impossible work, I like the first couple of films, but I wasn't really on board with it until McQuarrie started on them on Mission Impossible 5. And then what he
Ooh.
started doing is with 5 and 6, he started doing an ongoing narrative. And like, you know, obviously he brought in Rebecca Ferguson's character, Ilsa Faust, who should have been the female James Bond character. That just she was there. I mean, my dream was them to do a James Bond Mission Impossible crossover. They never have the balls to do it, but for me, Mission
Ooh.
Impossible has been doing James Bond better than James Bond for the last 2 films easily.
Yes.
Your dream is not that. It's to have Rebecca Ferguson and like a chocolate jacuzzi.
What?
And that's just you, Rebecca Ferguson, and the chocolate.
Well, that sounds like the
that's
filters
your
are going to
dream.
get very clogged.
Very clogged. And from chocolate clogged filters, let's move on to Jose's number 8 film.
My number 8 film was Blackberry.
I
think I just enjoyed it because of the players involved.
Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
He's so good.
he's great at being angry. That's all I can say.
He's the master.
And I'm also a big fan of historical, like, background movies. You know, Air, I said earlier, and Tetris I saw earlier this year, but I didn't think it kind of hit quite as hard as Blackberry. And again, I'm probably giving it more credit than it's due, but it was just fun movie to watch.
It was quite a relatively low budget film. One of my mates from Canada, Kareem, he's like, "Oh, it's like all shot around where he lived." And he's like really like bigging it up.
No way!
He's like,
No way.
he told me at the start of the year, "Yeah, you'll love this film, man. You'll really." And it didn't have a big release in the UK, but I got to see it on one of the unlimited screenings, and I was like, "Fuck it." I mean, come on, Glenn Howerton being a scumbag and just slimy and angry. I'm there for it, man.
It definitely felt more intimate too, even though I feel like the one with the one about Steve Jobs, played by Fassbender, that one obviously was really intimate, but like for some reason the way that they filmed this one,
It's a bit grungier.
grungier, actual, like, it had a
liked
better
it.
feel to it, you know. The interactions with the people, the scheming behind and back and forth was just really interesting.
I enjoyed it quite a lot as well, Jose. But about a week before I saw this, I saw another very similar film that I actually enjoyed a little bit more, and that was Dumb Money.
Oh, see, that's one I didn't see.
With Paul Dano playing the guy who takes on all the hedge funds by shorting stock in GameStop.
Yeah.
And it was a very similar film. You know, it's kind of like the corporations versus the little guy and all that kind of stuff. I know they weren't quite exactly the same films, but I just thought that was because they were quite similar in tone when I watched them, and I did actually prefer Dumb Money. But Blackberry is an excellent film, and I still at the start of the year there was outside talk of Howerton getting, like, you know, awards nominations.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen, sadly, because it's a small film, sadly. But yeah, Blackberry, man, I was a big fan of that. I quite enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now we move on to my number 8, and I think this is a film we're probably all going to be talking about a little bit later on, higher up other people's list, and that is Oppenheimer. Christopher Nolan's 12th film, I believe, as a director, and this is a 3-hour dark drama about the man who created the atomic bomb, starring Cillian Murphy. And seeing as this is Nolan in his historical biopic mode, alongside him are all the actors. We have Emily Blunt, The Pew, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, Benny Sadifi, Dane DeHaan, Jason Clarke, Alden Ehrenreich, Tom Conti as Einstein, Jack Quaid, Matthew Modine, and that's not even all of them.
Yeah, it was the who's who of actors. It felt like a Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan all over again.
Or you could argue it for the negative reviews I've seen, which I don't agree with. It's just men in room talking for 3 hours. I mean, there's a little bit of that.
You know what? I think what probably threw a lot of people off is what Christopher Nolan does is he plays with the order of the timeline. He jumps around a lot, I think.
It's the objective subjective thing, isn't it? That he plays with a lot.
He jumps around a lot, but he doesn't alter the timeline. Like, everything happens pretty much.
Oh no, that's what I mean. Our observation of where in time. Yeah, I didn't mean that.
It's not Troy and Abed.
Yeah, but I think our observation of what's happening during what period of time, it throws a lot of people off, I feel like.
I mean, I think since my first viewing, I've seen it twice now, and my second viewing, I was a little bit colder on it. I mean, on a filmmaking level, acting, performances, cinematography, the film is perfect, it's exquisite. But also, I think it didn't hit me on that emotional level. It didn't make me question my life and, like, man's futility against man and nuclear destruction.
Yeah,
Well, but was it really setting out to do that? Because to do that, you have to show the results of what happened when they dropped that
right,
bomb. And that's not something that anybody's prepared to do right now, and probably fucking shouldn't. So, like, so I don't think it. I think it was supposed to give you, like, a different vibe. It was supposed to be like, look how easy, you know, like God, the Benedict Cumberbatch movie about the guy that who break
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch.
In Imitation
Oh,
Game.
the one where he's
Imitation Game.
gay.
Yeah, I mean, like, but like, if you look at that movie, Oppenheimer reminded me more of that because it was about what happened to the guy after he did this massive thing. Like in Imitation Game, like the very worst thing happens to a guy because he's gay. Like, but he also helped, break all the codes that he needed to break the Enigma machine and so on and so forth. And it's like, this is again, like, look at how shitty people get in war. Like they needed Oppenheimer to make that ultimate weapon to end the war. And his whole thing was like, it was going to end all wars. But then it happens, politics gets involved, he gets thrown under the bus. And it's a lot of this story that I didn't know about and that I was really fascinated by. And I think it's an important movie because it does that. It shows you the behind the curtain, not just, oh, well, we made this bomb and it ended the war and that was a good thing. It was like, we did all that, but then also we tried to fuck that guy that did it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's why it's an important movie. And that's why Nolan did such an amazing job at putting that across and why he had to jump across the timeline so much, because you could say it, if he did it in order, it literally would be just people in rooms talking, because that's all you can show about what sort of happened. This is actually my number 6 that we're getting to next as well. So that's why I'm so ready on my notes.
It was my number 5.
David?
Yeah, my number 2. Yeah.
I think what you said in the beginning, you didn't really realize how much emphasis you could have put on it. It is about the man, not the creation
situation.
of the bomb.
Yeah,
and that's kind of another thing that I observed after the fact. It's like, oh, it's not just about him creating the bomb and the what happened afterwards, but it was really about the man, how he responded. And to be honest, I didn't realize just how much of a womanizer he was. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, we have to talk briefly about the female characters, of which there are maybe 2.5. You've got you've got Florence Pugh.
I think who the half is.
The bomb. The bomb is the half.
We'll screw the half. So we have the Pugh, who pretty much spends 3/4 of her screen time naked or crazy. Then you've got Emily Blunt, who plays his wife, who's basically drunk and angry for most of the film. And that's just her 2 defining character traits. Although she does get that one brilliant scene near the end, doesn't she? In the room, because all the scenes in the room.
She's actually a very strong character, but she's just flawed.
Yeah, well, I think it's this thing with Nolan again, isn't it? In like female characters, and the half, because we all asked him what the half was. That is Olivia Thirlby, Judge Anderson from Judge Dredd, who literally turns up for about one scene, and her only line is, "I'm not the typist. I'm actually a scientist," and that's it. And then she's basically never seen again.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, is she the biologist who joins the team?
I don't know. Absolutely shitting on myself here. I don't actually know what a job role was, but I know she has there's like a. You just saw it recently, though, Jose.
Oh yes, the judge from Judge Dredd. Yes,
Judge Dredd.
Sorry.
She gets literally maybe 2 lines in the film. I was like, but yeah. For me, I think the excellence of the craft and the performances are great here, and I think Cillian Murphy's brilliant, and he kind of underplays it. So although everyone's talking about him for an Oscar, again, he doesn't say that much. It's all on his face. And the close-ups are just like the agony.
The emotion is so deep,
and it's one of those more internalized performances.
You can tell it's like it's been really well physically acted, because there's about a bajillion memes made of him.
Yeah,
and you don't get great memes from people that don't like physically act. That's how they work.
I think
how they work.
Yeah, I think he does a brilliant job of displaying emotion that basically no one here will ever be able to even understand remotely what he was going through, because none of us are as intelligent as him. None of us have the power to create death at that scale.
Not that scale.
And that's it. Though
Wow,
none of us have none of us can do it, and like majority of the world can't do it. And yet we all
that's a good
understood.
Thing, I think,
but we all understood exactly his emotions at every point.
What was weighing on him and what he was going through.
We were always in there.
But there's moments where he's being, because what I liked about this was Nolan used slightly different like styles to film each part of the timeline. So you knew like if it was black and white, you knew you were Robert Downey Jr. was the bad guy, and like if it was in slightly there was kind of like a really colorized version when they were building the bomb and stuff, and then there was other different things, so you could tell each part, or like, I could at least tell.
Yeah,
each part
wasn't it? Wasn't the black and white used to be objective, and all color scenes were subjective?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought the black and white was when he wasn't in the because I heard that the script was written from Oppenheimer's perspective, so I figured the color was when Oppenheimer, it was his perspective, and the black and white was when he wasn't around.
He was around for some.
Yeah, the black and white. He's in the room at the end, isn't he? Where he's getting grilled, and he sat in the corner.
Okay.
So, but yeah, like I thought that was really smart and a really, really good way of separating each of those parts out. It's not a new thing, but it was a really wise choice from this point of view. And I had a further point that I've completely forgotten, so that's me.
Awesome. And moving on to number 7, David, what is your number 7 film of the year?
My number 7 is the new Scream 6.
You mean the last Scream film? Because 7 is utterly fucked now.
Yes, probably the last Scream film. Let's not get into that, because
no, let's not get into that.
That'll make me sad.
Scream 6. Surprisingly, I did not watch this one, even though we had an entire podcast about the whole series.
Scream is my favorite film. The first Scream. I fucking enjoy the entire franchise, massively so.
Even 3,
even
4.
3, dude. Scream 6 is actually probably one of the lowest on my.
Wow. I think it was, wasn't it? When you did the ranking?
I think it was the lowest one. Yeah, I still freaking enjoy it because it's Scream. I mean, it's Ghostface Takes Manhattan.
Hey,
what's not to enjoy?
Without getting into spoilers for it, I mean, these are kind of like minor around the thing. Like, there's a scene in the start of the film where you obviously Scream, you always get a starting kill before the credits, but in this one, you think you're getting the reveal of who Ghostface is right at the very start of the film, and obviously it's not the character we think it's going to be.
It's Ghostface kills Ghostface.
It's Ghostface kills Ghostface. Yeah, which was very surprising, and but this is the Carpenter sisters film, isn't it? It's the producers realizing, shit, we got lucky with Jenna Ortega becoming one of the biggest stars in the world right now. Let's give her
yeah. Let's not do anything to fuck that up.
Let's definitely not annoy her.
yeah.
Melissa Barrera, she's really good. Let's give her lots. Let's really dial down.
Yeah,
they obviously fucked up by not paying Nev Campbell enough to come back for this one. But actually, I think, as we said at the time, that was to the film's strength because you focused you more on the Carpenter sisters. I mean, and I just loved it. I think they could have played up a little bit more. I was just like, right,
I think
people are being killed again in New York. I don't live in New York. Fuck off. I'm not coming there. See you later. Enjoy.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it was my least favourite Scream film for a majority of reasons, but it still made my top 10 because it
had the problem with the killers as well. Obviously, my problem with quite a few of it, I'm not giving away who they are, but the problem with it is they're not in it enough for you to care. You get the reveal of the killers, and you're like,
they make one of them very obvious as well.
One of them's very obvious, and then the others you're just like, you're not really in it enough for me to care that you're a killer. So I still enjoyed it though, and as we said, that's hopefully it for Scream now.
Oh no, I want it to continue. It's Scream,
which is done well.
Just it needs to just they need to
over at a studio who aren't utter fuckwits.
Take it to A24.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, take it to A24. An A24 Scream film. Oh, I'm so there for that, man.
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so moving on. Ben, what do you have at number 7, which we've already talked about?
Number 7 is Barbie for me, and we've already thrashed through that one, so we can...
Thrashed through Barbie. So we're going to move on to you, Jose, and what do you have at your number 7?
I have my first film that I will ruin the order for everyone else. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
You utter bastard.
Wow.
I really was pleasantly surprised at how much better this movie was than I thought it would be. It wasn't perfect.
Chris Pine, man.
I mean, some funny cameos. Who is the little guy?
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. He was playing the half cameo. Yeah.
Why is Bradley Cooper? Why is that the role that he's like? I haven't seen him for ages. I haven't seen him in anything like for a very long time.
He'd been making Maestro, hadn't he?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's just like, "Hey, do you want to come and be like a tiny person, like a tiny fairy-sized person?" He's a halfling. Oh, I've got to stop. David's in his element here. I really do have to stop.
Yeah. No, David is.
He is both dungeon and dragon.
Yeah,
he is actually in a dungeon as we speak.
There we go. But aside from the fact that from what I hear, it was a very good Dungeons and Dragon film. But for me, it was just a really fun film overall, and the concept was pretty good. Hugh Grant being a pretty good villain, I think he's found his niche as a
Hugh Grant is basically a Tory MP in that film.
Hugh Grant's been a villain since he cheated on Elizabeth Hurley with a horrendous looking human being back in the day. I mean, I still can't believe that. He's not right, man. He's not right.
Not right.
But
isn't he an Oompa Loompa in the new Wonka movie as well?
He is, yeah.
That's about right. That's where he belongs.
In a jar on a shelf.
In a jar on a shelf. Sorry, Jose.
That's all right. And it was just I guess again I'm going like David. It's just a fun film, really great storyline, and even though some people have made the similarities at the end with Avengers, where the villain was beaten up, kind of like the Hulk beat up Loki, but otherwise I think it was just a really good film to watch.
God, did those people have nothing better to do with their time? I didn't think of that at all when I was watching it, man.
I didn't.
So this film is my number one. Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, it's my number one film. I mean, for all the reasons Jose said, just because it's just entertaining. It was the most entertaining film I'd watched this year.
We should preface this, David, with you are the main person out of us who you've been spending how long playing a Dungeons and Dragons video game for the last...
Oh, Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3. Has anyone played Baldur's Gate 3 out of you guys?
No, I have not.
I didn't even know
it
it was
is
a game.
fucking, honestly, it is.
Which is a Dungeons and Dragons
incredible
game, yes, David?
So there's two things this year. Both of them Dungeons and Dragons related.
Yeah.
That are the best, just stand out for me. The film, which I loved, but the game's just something else, man. The game is honestly one of the best games I've ever played. I think it's made a lot of people's like number one games ever. Like not
ever.
just it was Game of the Year.
Oh, wow.
It won Game of the Year this year. It is fucking incredible. But anyway,
and
we're not here
gently
to
back to the
talk
film,
game.
David. Gently back
Yeah,
to
we're
the
not here
film.
talking. Anyway, the film is just pure entertainment. You don't need to be a fan of Dungeons and Dragons or have played the game to enjoy it, which I think is to its benefit for the obvious reason because it appeals to the masses. But for those that do love the film, it's just scattered with all of these little niche nods to either the game, to specific characters, to just everything.
Gelatinous
just
blob that dissolves things was used fabulously, I think.
Can I ask, as someone that plays Dungeons and Dragons, or as a real affinity to it, like the stuff that they were doing in the movie, like I have like a basic understanding of how like Dungeons and Dragons is played, and I've always wanted to give it a go because it seems like it'd be really good fun. But I get most of my understanding of Dungeons and Dragons from Dan Harmon's podcast, Harmontown, where he plays it every week with different celebrities, and they have to keep the same character. When you were watching the movie, did you think to yourself, "Oh, that's pretty accurate"? Like that kind of, you can only cast that spell if you do this, and that's the only thing that could repel that kind of thing. Like, did it all make sense to you, as well as being something for every man?
To be honest, I didn't watch it with that lens. I wasn't watching it in that sense. I wasn't thinking of it like, "Oh, that would do that, or that would do this."
Well, can you and tell me, please?
I can't have to watch it again. But yeah, it does. It keeps to the lore, I suppose,
cool.
and to the what actually makes sense in game would make sense. Because if it didn't, people would have torn it to shreds.
Yeah. So that was like, because
I'm assuming that sort of thing would have just sort of, it would have happened and it would have grazed past me.
But I feel like the reason that Dungeons and Dragons is popular is because the rules are the rules, and you have to play within them. So if the movie did anything other than that, it would fall prey of being like as dog shit as Looper, perhaps. That I have to bring up this podcast.
Looper
Get out of here! Get on
hey.
out of here!
But it depends. I feel like there's two different people. There's multiple different people that obviously play Dungeons and Dragons, but there's those that stay really tight to the rules of like 5e or whatever, and then there's those that will use it as like a general guideline to how you should play. and then just have fun with it. And that's where I'd like to be. That's how we play with my friends, like using it as the general guidelines, but it's at the discretion of the DM. Right, so the DM's not hard on the rules. He's not like, no, you can't do this because of this reason. He's like, well, no, you can do it. You just got to roll for it. And that's how.
David, does DM mean Deviant Master?
Neil, you know what it means, Neil.
I will quickly throw in, David. For me, I'll tell you why the film works. It's down to one of the producers. One of the producers, it was his first film as a solo producer, and he learned under Kevin Feige on all the big Marvel films. And it's just like him leaving and going out on his own. And he literally, I remember listening to an interview with him, and he said, I basically went, right, Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's fantasy. Take that kind of team up thing, and then also make it a heist film. So that was his initial pitch. It's Guardians of the Galaxy, but fantasy, and we make it a heist film. And that just worked perfectly for it, man.
Yeah. It's a good film. Number 1. Just for fun.
I'm up for that.
Yeah,
okay.
I've never played it, and I feel like it's something I would enjoy after watching Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
I've got my player's handbook here. We can all just roll for.
If you could guide me through the process, I would actually enjoy that.
I'll do it. We should all make a character at the start of a podcast and then review a film as that character.
Ooh,
a film that we know, a film that we know really well. All 4 of us know really well.
I feel like Neil would be a bard right off the top.
He would be in a bar. Yeah, probably.
No, he'd be a bard, a singer.
He'd be bard for doing what?
Everything.
Isn't that
Life.
a character? Hey,
Everything.
You're messing with me now. I just got on.
Hey. Right. And for my number 7, we have I have a number 7, Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese's latest historical epic, and it isn't anything revolutionary, although there is a certain fourth wall breaking cameo near the end of the film that was a massive pleasant surprise that you do not expect in a Martin Scorsese historical drama. It's also the first time Deadpool turns up and kills Deadpool kills Flower Moon. They finally got Scorsese to make a Marvel film, man. No one saw that cameo coming.
If that's not in Deadpool 3 next year, I'm going to be fucking furious now.
Oh, mate, if Scorsese doesn't cameo in it, directing a part of Deadpool 3 as himself, or with his daughter doing a TikTok video, because that's how it's all come over, isn't it? It's brilliant, man.
Yeah. God, that's so funny.
Right. There's enough gold. There's enough gold for you now. Back to the film and the boring stuff. It's the first time Scorsese has had DiCaprio and De Niro working together in one of his films, but they have acted together before, playing father and son in 1993's This Boy's Life. Now, I really enjoyed this adaptation. It's from a 2017 non-fiction book by a guy called David Gran, and it's a book of the same name. And it basically deals with the murders and how white opportunists plan to take away all the oil-rich land that have been given to the Osage Nation. Without getting too much into spoilers with DiCaprio's character, I'll just say his character is fucking excellent, and I did not expect him to play that type of role. That really kind of surprised me. He's superb here, but I mean, he usually is, isn't he? De Niro also reminds us that, oh yeah, he can be fucking brilliant when he wants to. Just, stop doing the really shitty comedies, Robert, please. But the undoubted star of the film is Native American actress Lily Gladstone, who plays Molly Kyle, DiCaprio's wife. She's superb and has a hell of a story arc throughout the years of the film taking place, and she should be a Best Actress nomination lot. She's also great in the very underseen and brilliant Reservation Dogs, which I'll be talking about on one of our Best Shows of the Year podcast. Now, despite its runtime, the film has been a modest box office success. But again, I think Apple, who financed the film, they're happy with it being a big prestige Oscar frontrunner, getting all the awards and not taking as much money. And it still did do quite well at the box office. Bear in mind, it's a 3-hour plus film. However, there has been some criticism of the film from the Native American community, and that how even telling Molly's extraordinary story, it's still largely told from the white man's point of view, and that the story should have focused more on the indigenous community. But other comments were, well, at least it's progress. I think I take both sides on board when I watch it. It's a really powerfully acted film about a story that many people outside of the States, and probably quite a few inside the States, know really very little about. And of course, it's made by Scorsese, which means it's a masterpiece. So go check it out. You can watch it at home very soon. I think it's actually available for rent on Apple TV Plus now, so you can stop it and have a pee. Unlike the way Scorsese intended.
Do you think it's DiCaprio's best performance?
I don't know if it's his best. I honestly think it's better than The Revenant, which he won an Oscar for. Because in The Revenant, he just lied in the mud in Canada for about 2 years and like got thrown around. You know, that's probably not hard to act, is it? If you're literally laying in the mud getting thrown around and it's cold and you got like someone poking you with a stick going, it's a bear, it's a bear.
Well, isn't The Revenant his apology Oscar for not giving him an Oscar or sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been brilliant down the years. I think he's very good in this, but it's not a surprising role. And originally rumoured was that Jesse Plemons was actually going to play the role DiCaprio played, and I could totally see that when I see the film, that Plemons maybe would have done the role better than DiCaprio, but Plemons turns up later as an FBI agent, like about an hour and a half into the film. And you're like, hey! There's that brilliant meme already that they've been using from Jesse Plemons from this film, because it was a line in the trailer, because he knocks on the door and he's like, I'm here to see about these murders. What do you mean, see about them? See who's doing them. And David, we're up to you. Talk to me about what your number 6 film is.
Oh, you did that on purpose. It's Talk to Me.
It's called a segue.
That's the film. It's Talk to Me.
Waka Waka Raka.
Yeah, it's the Kiwi horror film that we've kind of already
Australian
horror film. Sorry, my bad. I said Kiwi. My parents are in New Zealand at the moment, so that's why I said Kiwi. I got confused. Australian horror film.
Did your parents
we've
direct
already
this
touched
film?
about it. It's sorry.
Did your parents direct this in?
Why is Neil trying to be funny? You hear that silence there, Neil? Did you hear that silence? Did you? That was.
Carry on with your review, David. Carry on.
Thank you. Well, you've already spoke about it in the long list. It's the possession-based horror film where a bunch of teenagers, use a embalmed hand to speak to the dead and bring in possession, and shit just hits the fan from there.
And get
really.
high.
It is.
I think that's the key.
What did we say in our review? It is
drugs. You
basically
just said the word
drugs,
drugs
isn't it? It's
a lot,
drugs,
David.
yeah.
It
is drugs.
You were talking about them. You were on them. They were everywhere.
It's possession, but as a drug. If it was a drug,
it's a metaphor.
That's the film. Yeah, it's good. It's a good film. Good horror film.
It goes spectacularly violent. Like you don't like some of the scenes in it. You're like, we had it at a secret screening, and first of all, when people realised it was a horror film and a shocking act of violence near the very start of the film, I think we lost about 20, 25 people just left. I was like, oh, this is good. Obviously, can't deal with horror films. But I think as we mentioned, we won't obviously mention the ending, but a lot of horror films, they do the cheap shock ending, don't they? It's all over, and then there's a quick flash, and that's most low budget horror films. This is a low budget horror film that has one of the best endings I have seen in a horror film for years. And I love if they did do a sequel, which I think is being planned. Well, actually, I know it's being planned because it's also called Talk to Me, but they put a 2 in instead of the
hey.
Hey.
Very original.
Yeah, very, very original.
Yeah, no, I thought it was brilliant, and I thought using possession as a drug was just really fucking smart.
I think it's probably one of the horror films of the year there, actually, isn't it? I definitely think so.
Yeah. I mean, I do have one horror film above it, but yeah.
Well, Ben, I would move on to you, but your number 6 we've already talked about, which was Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
So we can skip you.
My number 6, we've already talked about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
We're going to skip you as well, Jose, and we're going to come back to me because it's all about me. And we're going to skip me because it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which we've also talked about.
Oh, fuck, I've got to go again.
So, but to be fair, David, we are at your number 5. And this is a film.
Yeah,
is this the joke film? Is this your joke film?
No, the film that I said I probably wouldn't watch again,
Right.
like as in for rewatchability, is Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Because I probably don't see myself watching Oppenheimer, mainly because I ain't got 3 hours to just sit down and watch a film for.
You are on the wrong podcast then, mate.
Yeah. This podcast is going to be longer than Oppenheimer, David.
I was about to say.
It will be, yeah.
All right. Number 5, Brooklyn 45.
Brooklyn 45, yeah. So you guys, has anyone heard of this film?
Never even heard of it.
No, no. So it was on Shudder, and I just threw it on as just like a random horror film.
Oh.
To watch it was a Shudder original. And it's about 5 military veterans, and it's a period film, and they all get together.
What's the period?
To oh fuck, that's a good question. It's like it's just after World War II. It's called 45, Brooklyn 45. It might be.
Is it set in 1945 potentially, David?
That might be the reason. Yeah.
Kind of like the Adam Driver movie 65.
No, Jose, don't bring that piece of crap.
That was a bad time.
Ooh.
Adam Driver versus dinosaurs. No, we can't afford it. Let's just hide him in the dark with a girl. Fuck off. No, I'm angry. No. You don't get a pass on this one, Adam Driver. Brooklyn 45. Please continue, David.
They all get together, perform a seance, and shit hits the fan. Basically, it's one of those films that's all set and filmed in one location. It's all in one room, the whole film, with various little twists and turns, reasons why they can't leave the room, and that's it. It's basically it's just one of those. It's just a
So
film,
here's my question, David.
a character piece.
What made it
It's
stand out for you? Is it the characters and the acting, or the script, or what is it about this low-budget indie film on Shudder that none of us have heard of that you think's good enough to be your number 5?
I'm a bit of a sucker for those for one location movies.
Okay.
I have to admit, like where everything's set in one location and you bring stuff in and out of it, and it reminded me a little bit of Clue.
Okay, but
Okay.
with more possession.
But more of a horror version of it, where it was all a bit quirky.
So, like, it
And
was Professor Mustard in the one room with the power of Satan.
Yeah, the character very much like characters like that, you know.
Are you able to say why
and-
it's a horror movie other than that it was a possession situation?
There's a little bit of gore, a little bit of apparition, like ghostly apparitions. Yeah,
Brain
and
splatter?
It's on, stuff like that. Yeah, so it is a horror film. Where it's not like you're not gonna get scared watching it.
It's mostly gross.
Yeah, a little bit gross, a little bit like really quite bad CGI. Now when I'm thinking about it,
Oh,
but
But you enjoyed it,
it all
David.
just adds to the charm.
How often are you going to go back and revisit this film?
I'd watch it again. Probably like next year
Okay.
at some point. It's one of those films that I could just throw on, you know, just a throw on
Like a
film, watch it
comfortable
in the
jumper.
background. You don't have to pay attention to it much. Yeah, like it's a comfortable jumper of a film.
Comfortable
That's
jumper of a
right.
film.
Yeah.
Potentially set in 1945.
But potentially, yeah, without.
We'll have to double check that
Possibly in Brooklyn.
And
It was
possibly
on the
Brooklyn.
evening of December the 7th, 1945. There we go.
Ooh.
And that is why
Excellent.
it's called like.
And a Christmas
There
film,
we are.
apparently.
Well,
Yeah.
kinda.
Is it very Christmassy? Does anyone get strangled with tinsel?
No.
And Ben, we move on to your number 5, which I
My-
think Jose's going to want to talk about a little bit as well.
My number 5, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Absolutely glorious. A visually dazzling animated masterpiece I've written down here. Miles Morales confidently finding his way as Spider-Man after the last movie Into the Spider-Verse. Thrust into a spider world run by a clearly deranged spider overlord. Count how many times I say spider. It sort of like harkens back to his like being a fish out of water and like you know finding his feet again, which was really really endearing in the first one. Here's like will they won't they with Gwen Stacy is explored quite a lot, and it's just fun, man. I mean, like you don't get movies that look this good very often, especially not animated in this style, and like it's just glorious. I think it was really good fun. It was hilarious in places. I mean, I was just looking up the cast, and if you look, hang on, where's Into Across the Spider-Verse? So the cast itself, like if you get rid of like the sort of main actors, you've got like Oscar Isaac in there. Haley Steinfeld, Jason Schwartzman. Andrew Garfield is credited in it, but I don't know that he has a.
Oh, he's in a scene in the room where they look at all the different universes.
Oh, he is okay. Like Donald Glover's in there. Like you know, there's like
Andy
Donald,
Samberg.
actual Donald Glover's in it as well.
actual
not animated
Donald Glover as well, which is
Yeah.
which is really great. But like you can keep going. I mean, like Nicolas Cage is in it still, and you know they've retained a lot of people. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jake Johnson of New Girl fame. And obviously he plays the Peter Parker, the regular Spider-Man who's a little bit out of shape, who's had a baby on this one. So, you know, like there's a little bit of development here, there and everywhere. And it was bang on for what I wanted to see from the next one. I didn't realize it was a part 1, spoiler alert. So I got,
Well,
I was like, Mike,
I'd
my
like
God.
to correct you on that. It's technically a part 2 of 3.
Oh, is it? Is it really?
Oh.
Well, this is
Yeah.
like this felt more like a part. Okay, so this part 2 felt exactly like a half a movie because it literally stops and says, you know, like
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
To
continued.
be continued. Yeah, it literally felt like they were like, "Fuck you, we're not cutting anything from this film.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll just end it, and
Yeah.
people won't care. People won't be annoyed because it's that good."
yeah. I was
It was.
only annoyed in the fact that I didn't get to watch the rest of it. Like that's
Right.
the only thing.
I was like, wow, they need to wrap this up pretty quickly because we're getting about pretty long here.
And
then
Jose,
Toby
where was
continued.
this on your list?
It was number one. It was number one
good
film.
choice.
The
Good choice.
first movie was my number one of last year. Or no, a couple years ago. It's been a while. But I think because it didn't just rely on being a good movie already like the first one was. It really amplified everything. The cartoon style, the animation. It was just like they made some really interesting choices with the different universes, with Gwen Stacy specifically being more of like a watercolor universe. And then the color palettes for every character, they're subtle and they show you, like, looking back at some of the behind the scenes, it's just like I can't even explain it properly because it's so nuanced, and the character developments is great, like what you talk about with Gwen Stacy and her being part of the main part of the movie in the beginning instead of even introducing Miles until later.
I mean, when we talked about it on the pod a while back, Jose, I remember you saying we had a good chat about representation in it because it's like he's like a mixed race background, isn't it? And you were saying about the representations of the Latino community in the film and how that's something you don't usually see on screen.
I think the fact that his mother being Hispanic, there were some subtleties that in the dialogue that people may not notice if they're not Hispanic, but if you're Hispanic, you're like, hey, my mom says that too. That's really cool. And so they really take the time. And then Karan Soni, the Indian Spider-Man, they actually discussed with him different lines of what would make sense in his culture. So they didn't just write things for him to say. They actually consulted him to make it more accurate. A lot of prep and care was taken into making the sequel not just more visually appealing, but like culturally appealing. I feel like was just amazing. Also with Daniel Kaluuya, Spider-Punk, they did the same thing with him. I saw an interview where they're like, yeah, we want to see if there's anything that you would say that you think would be appropriate for this character. So just honestly, just the little things like that I think elevate this movie being more than just a better visual style. It's the characters that bring it together really well.
I've got no notes, man. Like I think it's it's amazing to me that the Sony Spider-Man universe stuff they do, that the live action films are so terrible, and yet the animation side are like literally at the top
but
end
it's the
of
same.
it, you know.
It's the same with Warner Brothers and DC. Like the DC stuff, like that is on screen. That live action stuff is abysmal. Like, let's not even mention Blue Beetle from this year. But like you look at their animation department, and it actually outsells Marvel. Like some Marvel live action movies. Mm-hmm. So they know what they're doing when it comes to animation, and Sony are absolutely crushing this. And then what they're going to do? How do they keep up with that? I mean, they lent Spider-Man as a property to Marvel so they could get a decent story out of it in live action. Have you seen the trailer though for Madam Web, which looks like an absolute fucking mess of a film?
Ben, what was the line? Because everyone was like, how badly written the trailer was, and it was like, yes, she got bitten by a spider. Well, she was looking for a mother in the Amazon. I mean, that's a fucking lot happening in one sentence right there.
Yeah, so now her secret power is that she can spider find people. Like, I mean, shut up, man. Like, get out of it. So like
it looks terrible.
So, but going back to everything that you've just touched on there, like there is no real downside to these movies. Like you can push the boundary on the Spider-Verse as much as you want now because you've taken it on board in the first one and you're rolling with it in the second one. And they've done it so much better than any of the multiverse stuff in the actual MCU at the moment, I think.
100%. The only limit is their imaginations.
Honestly, the reason it's my number one is like with some of these other movies, it's more of a passion choice. Like, I admit that there's some things that I don't like about these other movies. They're like, well, it's not that good at this part. With Across the Spider-Verse, I have no notes, like you said, Neil. Like,
no notes. It's rare you get out of a film where there's literally nothing you would change or because it's so inventive, it's so imaginative, it's so just well written and clever, and like I said, the level of imagination in that film. On my best, I couldn't think of even a tenth of the stuff they're doing in that. So it's absolutely amazing film. And now we move on to Jose's number 5, which is
The Creator. Finally, I get to steal another movie from you guys.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So this is a movie I think across the board was really well done, and the only negatives I really have are for me wanting more. Because visually it was amazing the way that they created this movie, pun intended. um,
Hey,
they did it something unique to where is they filmed everything on location, which is not very common these days. And the thing is, it was edited first, and then the visual effects were added on, and that's why everything looks so clean. Is because the visual effects artists were able to know, okay, this is the shot. There's nothing going to change. I will take the time to make it look good. And the story I think is fine. It's a little bit reminiscent to, I don't know. It reminds me.
AI, Terminator. It kind of it's a melange of all these classic sci-fi films you've seen, and he's just pulled all these different elements and mixed them together.
And I admit that it's actually a really good twist on like it makes its own film. You know, being in a country that's not the U.S., having the past where the AI has effectively attacked the U.S. and now there's two sides. But the part that I wanted more of is we see this child and this guy, and we know that the guy's just trying to find his wife, and that eventually he's going to bond with the child. But in the way I think that the other movies have done a better job of bonding two characters. It was a little bit just kind of glossed over for me.
I think I disagree with you there. I think the relationship between Alfie and John David Washington's character is superb. That was the heart of the film for me.
Yeah.
Because the performances, I think that's the best I've seen John David Washington be in anything. And the kid was absolutely amazing. I mean, I forget the actor's name, the young actor who plays Madeline Unit Voiles. She should be up for a Best Supporting Actress nomination at that age because she's that goddamn good.
I agree. And when I say glossed over, I'm not saying the performance was bad.
Not spent enough time with, you mean?
Correct. There was not enough time. Yeah, there was a scene where they were in the van and they have that altercation, but then they just move on, and then suddenly they're at their next location. There's no time spent in the car having moments, like kind of like in the beginning.
I think it's because he wanted to obviously keep the pace of the film running. Like it never drops. It never like let it. It's just so well acted in that. Just briefly mentioning on your point of the way it was filmed, Jose. Yeah, it had a budget of 80 million. When she was like, "Oh, 80 million." That's like no for this type of film. That is nothing. Like it looks like a 200, 300 million pound film. And there was a bit we mentioned when we reviewed it a while back was that the camera, the way and the cameras and the way they filmed it.
Yes.
They used a prosumer camera, which cost 15 grand, which is nothing in terms of cameras, like for professional Hollywood films. Basically, you and me could go out and rent this camera for a day for like the money that we probably have.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it does help that you get the cinematographer who did Dune and The Batman, Greig Fraser, multiple Oscar-winning Greig Fraser. But he actually ended up he ended up doing all the prep work on it, but he didn't actually do most of it because of COVID and delays to Dune Part 2 coming out. So a lot of it was turned over to a young cinematographer called Oren Sofer. And he was kind of like talked through a lot of the stuff by Fraser, so I kind of mentored on it. And like you said, they traveled all around the world to these locations. They went to Thailand, they went all over Southeast Asia and just filmed the locations and then stuck everything in later. Once they kind of saw it worked, everyone was like, well, this didn't cost nowhere near as much as like hiring a green screen studio for 2 years. And it looked amazing because it is actually the places. I mean, visually, it looks like Apocalypse Now crossed with Star Wars. I loved it, man.
Yep. I mean, this was my number one. Like, and you guys are just like fought my argument for me. There was nothing in this movie. I think whilst like I've talked about cautionary tales and like, you know, stuff like if like for me, if Oppenheimer is like probably the most important movie on my list as a cautionary tale because you don't want to forget what's happened in the past, I think this is the most relevant like a movie that is on my list. I think that, you know, it's easy to take things like AI with a pinch of salt and say, you know, like, well, they're creating really pretty pictures at the moment and taking off people's voices. But, you know, there is an element to AI where, you know, people are worried about it and stuff. And yeah, like it, not only does it do it in a really clever way in that it diverts the history that we know right now years ago. You know, when robots first started getting developed, they could take off quite quickly. And so, you know, where we are right now in 2023, this movie has like taken robots and surpassed what we're capable of doing with them right now. so it sets it in a slightly just so slightly different parallel universe that it's still relevant to what we are. And again, it's one of those tales where it's like, well, it wasn't really the robots that blew us up; it was our own fucking hubris. And I don't know how many movies need to be made about that before people start to like taking a look at themselves and going, oh, what could I do to be just a little bit better? And I pulled from that movie. I came away desperate to watch it again for a second time. I loved every performance. I thought that there wasn't a weak moment in it for me. The way that it touched on movies like Aliens and Apocalypse Now was more like a doffing the cap as opposed to a blatant ripoff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it pushed movie making boundaries. It drew me in as a punter that went in there with half an idea of what it was about, and it just ticked every single box for me that I really, really wanted ticked and didn't know I wanted ticked.
Yeah, man, I really can't wait. You can rent it on digital now, and it's out on 4K and DVD in January. And I think I've pre-ordered it already, man. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, to see it in that kind of resolution as well. Because I mean,
I can't wait to see the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah,
the making of, man. That'll be one of bizarrely that'll be almost as interesting as the film for me.
Does anybody know what I always forget the director's name. Gareth
Edwards.
Edwards, thank you. Yeah. Does anybody know what he's doing next? Because if he's done Rogue One and this, what is he going to come up with next, man?
I guarantee you, a studio has just gone. He made that for 80 million.
He seems like someone who's smart enough to take his time. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to see anything from him for a little while.
Oh no, and I think he's right to. I think he's absolutely right to. And I'll be there opening day with popcorn in hand.
According to IMDb, his next project is Forever.
But what's it called, David?
But it's called Forever.
What's the description?
Yeah.
Know what this is about? Be the first to add a plot.
Amazing.
That sounds pretty weak, actually. I might take that back. I might not go and see that.
Yeah. And for the record, just wanted to clear up my statement. Like you said, I wanted more, and it's not a detraction; it's more of a nitpick, really. Because I guess I wanted, I enjoyed the movie. I agree with everything you've said. I wanted just things to be fleshed out into like a 4-hour movie, honestly.
The problem is, and this is what David accurately predicted like a bastard, was that the film was going to bomb.
Yeah.
And it did.
Technically, I was wrong because it made a profit.
It just made a profit. Yeah.
It just made a profit, yeah. I did say it was going to bomb, but that was only because I felt like it wasn't advertised very well.
It cost 80 million and it only just made a profit.
Of 120 million, but because the marketing budget and all that kind of stuff, which is almost double the cost of the film.
That was the reason why I thought it wouldn't do well, was because the marketing behind it wasn't.
In a way, it's hard to market to the general audience because it's like, oh, the U.S. was bombed, and this is based in Asia.
I was going to say, Jose, as an American, do you think it may have not done as well in the States because America is basically the bad guy in this film, and Asia is a good guy?
The way it was marketed, it didn't say that, but I think.
Well, it's not going to say that, is it? Because you wouldn't go and see it. You're like,
exactly. I think as a
Chinese robots.
As a sci-fi fan, I think people understand what the concept, and but I think that's more of a film. Cinephiles. Cinephiles love this, but as a standard consumer, they'll be like, I don't get it. I think it is over the heads of a lot of average viewers, honestly. So that's probably also why they didn't market it right.
Too much talking, less running and killing.
Yeah, I don't think it bombed though.
It didn't bomb.
I think I was wrong. Yeah, I think it did probably as best as it was ever going to do, with the fact that it never.
And to be fair, and it's an original IP. It's like an original story, and new. And I'd love to see.
Tell that to Zack Snyder, though.
No, we're not even Jose, we're already at 2 hours. We're not talking about Zack Snyder on this podcast today. Moving on to my number 5. And at number 5, I've got a film that literally, I think it was the first film I saw in January this year. And that was Damien Chazelle's brilliant, it's 3 hours long, epic, because it's 3 hours long, portrayal of the early days of Hollywood, and that's Babylon. Has anyone else seen Babylon?
I wanted to, but then I heard
Brad Pitt
about it.
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie as Nellie Leroy. So think Harley Quinn, but with less violence but more cocaine. Diego Calva as a young Mexican actor, a star-making turn as Manny, and he's like an immigrant who works his way up from nothing. He's the guy who like brings in like the drugs to the parties, and then he's trying to work his way up into the studio system. And it's all set in like the 1920s, in the early days of Hollywood. And so it follows these kind of three main characters: Nellie, Manny, and then Brad Pitt's character Jack Conrad. He's like the star, the leading man at the moment. But as the film kind of goes on, you know, Robbie's brilliant because she's just an absolute wild card in it. Although she does play that role a lot now. It's kind of a bit similar. I was watching it going, this is the scene you think you're going to get nominated for an Oscar for, isn't it? And you're not. And because the film didn't get hardly nominated for anything. And it is a brilliant scene. You're watching it going, she has a meltdown at a party and you like just start swearing and like just shoving food down her face. You're like, it's an awesome scene, but I don't think people buy it because you've done it so many times now. That kind of performance.
It's almost taking for granted how good she is.
Yeah, I think it is, but it's also because she's done it so many similar times. I mean, Brad Pitt's really good in it as well. He's kind of like the aging movie star by the because the film takes place over about 30, 40 years of these people's lives. It kind of
really
starts and then moves through the different genres. So like when sound comes in, it fucks up all their like shit because there's a brilliant scene where they're trying to do a take, and it's a bit like The Room where they keep doing take after take after take because they have to have the cameraman in like this wooden box and like soundproof box. He's like, oh guys, it's really hot in there, and like, he just collapses at one point because they've had 27 takes of the same take. And it's actually funny, Jamie Chazelle's wife plays the director of that scene within the film, which is quite a nice little cameo for her. It has an amazing supporting cast as well. I mean, literally off the top of my head, you got Catherine Waterston, you got Tobey Maguire, Flea, Spike Jonze, Samara Weaving, who yes does play an actress who gets replaced by Margot Robbie in the film within the film, wink wink, which is brilliant. They got like one scene together. So she's trying to replace me. Like, fucking right she is. Even Olivia Wilde turns up for one scene playing Brad Pitt's first wife, ex-wife, wife, then ex-wife. He has a lot of them as the film goes on. Yes, it's too long, and yes, it does feel like it's trying for Oscar glory points. You know, I always say Hollywood and the Oscars, they love films about Hollywood and the Oscars. And
they love their ego being stroked, don't they? They're like, oh yeah, come in here.
But do you know what? The film was never dull for me. I mean, the core trio are superb. It bombed massively upon its release. It came out Christmas week in the States, which is exactly the wrong time you release this film. Like, there's so much cocaine in this film, so much. I felt like I was watching Scarface. But do you know what? Already, people almost a year later now, they're going, do you know what? Actually, no, it was really pretty fucking good, actually. And I think it's going to be one of these misunderstood classics where people go back and go, whoa, shit. Honestly, again, and this has got an ending that I will never give away because you honestly, when you watch this film, then come back and talk to me about the ending of the film because it is such an amazing celebration of just cinema and just the balls Chazelle had to do the end sequence in this film. Like, whatever else you think about the film, you're like, how the fuck did he get away with doing that?
Nice.
Just clearing rights issues for what he does is like,
wow.
Yeah, it's insane what he does. So I would say this is a really misunderstood future masterpiece. And that brings us on to number 4. And David, knock knock, what do you have at number 4?
No, stop ruining them. Stop ruining them every goddamn time.
You know what, David? The more you react, the funnier it is to see.
The worse my segues are going to get, David.
I just play up to it. It is Knock at the Cabin.
Hey.
It is. It is Dave Sensitive Bautista.
Big Dave wearing glasses.
Yeah. He's trying to stop the apocalypse, guys. That's all he's trying to do.
Not alone.
You know, he's
not alone.
He's got some companions.
He's got Ron Weasley.
He's got Ronald Weasley.
He's had a really bad couple of years.
I mean, looking like he's had a couple of years. Actually, to be fair, on screen he's had a really good couple of years. He's been really good.
Yeah, Ron Weasley had a couple of bad years, lived in the States, and then had a meltdown.
It's the look he's going for, is what you mean, yeah.
Right, yes.
And it is the M. Night Shyamalan film about the apocalypse and trying to stop it by sacrificing. Well, someone has to willingly sacrifice another person, and if they don't, the apocalypse will come.
Someone has to willingly sacrifice another person. That's murder.
Yeah.
That is
they have to agree to kill themselves.
Yeah, they have to be like, yes.
So we won't give away the whole plot and the twist and all that, but what we will say is Bautista and his band of scary looking motherfuckers are not so scary, to be fair.
They're not really
No,
that
they're not
scary.
really
scary.
They're
I mean,
just like, they
Batista-
just got these weird weapons, and then
we
after
know
that, they're just
Batista
like
is in
normal
serious
people.
acting mode because he's wearing glasses,
Yes.
and so
Okay.
that's acting.
And he has a
Dave.
nice cuddly jumper on. He looks. Wait, does he have a nice cuddly jumper on?
I
Or am I
think
making
he-
that
I
up
think
now?
he
You
may
made that
have-
up.
I just feel like he's so sensitive in this. I'm
He
imagining
should
him with
be
a jumper.
wearing a nice cuddly jumper.
Yeah, yeah, he should be.
But yeah, basically, they do a home invasion on this. No, I don't want you to do a home invasion, Jerry. Stop spinning around.
The
Sorry.
police are going to turn up at Neil's house now. He's just Googled how to do a home invasion.
Yeah, so as you say, the basic plot is this couple and their adopted daughter are going for a nice, relaxing weekend away in the woods, and these people turn up and take them hostage. And they basically say, if one of you doesn't choose to sacrifice the other, then the world's going to end. And you're like, okay, well, these guys are clearly batshit, or are they? And the couple, the two guys, one of them is an absolutely no, this is bullshit, fuck you guys, and the other one's like, well, maybe. So you kind of have this quite nice dichotomy going on. However, David, it changes the ending from the book, and that annoyed me because the book's ending is awesome.
Yeah,
And
I
super
read
dark.
I haven't read the book, but I read up on that
What the
ending
ending?
because you mentioned it in the podcast that we did. And to be fair, the book ending does sound a lot
Better.
and it is a lot darker
Yeah.
as well. And you know how much I like a dark
Yeah.
ending.
I do want to give credit to the acting because it really makes this scenario. I think this is why David likes it so much, is because it's in one room, one house.
Yeah.
It's all contained.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm a very simple person. I have simple likes and simple needs.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
And I agree. This is a great movie. I mentioned it before when we made the what's the word, honorable mention.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista is probably the most effort from a wrestler that I've seen post career.
I think we all agree, don't we? That he's the best actor, actually actor of all the ex wrestlers.
Yes.
You know, The Rock and Cena, they're good at playing The Rock and Cena.
Yes.
Dave puts the glasses on and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm working with Dennis Villeneuve this week. I'm working with M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Who are you working with again, The Rock? Oh, okay.
But then
The Rock's the only one that's got like star pulling power.
Yeah.
Like you'd go and watch a film
Yeah.
because The Rock's in it.
but he's
To be
playing
fair,
for
I
Rock.
will go and see what Dave Bautista's in now, except for My Spy, because it was a kid's film. But hey, he had his Arnie phase. He did one film, he got over it.
Right. But yeah, I think that the character work is really what delivers in this movie, because it makes you wonder what the hell is going on. It's not just, oh, things are being told, and oh,
It
we
keeps
see
you
stuff-
guessing, to be fair, pretty much till near the end of the film, doesn't it? So
Exactly. So it delivers promptly, like David suggests. I'd say yes. It's great learning about each character before things happen that are very drastic.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jose.
And moving on to Ben's number 4.
Oh man, number 4. Oh yeah, number 4. Fantastic. So just stop yourself. No one needs that.
He just likes to ruin everyone's day.
So I don't mind. I think the stuff he's doing with you is his attempt at wit, and good on him. But like shit mouth trumpet versions of epic theme tunes is a big fucking no-no for someone that loves soundtracks. You're bastardizing a lot of them. Now behave.
That's also a brilliant name for a punk band.
Oh,
That whole thing.
Epic mouth trumpet versions. No. All right. My number 4 is unsurprisingly for someone like me, Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. It's Harrison. I hate every popular character I've ever played. Ford. It comes back as Daredevil archaeologist Indiana Jones in another race against time to preserve another artifact. It belongs in a museum. This time accompanied by his newly reconnected goddaughter, who is both on his side and out for herself. They're trying to keep the Dial of Destiny out of the clutches of the evil villain. I think it's Jürgen Voller, who
Definitely sounds like a footballer.
he does, doesn't
The
he?
Germans.
Is he Germans? Who, and this is the most non-realistic part of this entire plot. He's a guy that used to be a Nazi and then works for NASA. When would that ever
that never
happen?
happened.
Can you
what?
fit? Fucking hell! Really pushing the boat out there when it comes to sci-fi.
I mean, I can deal with, like, you know, what's his name being his son.
What's his
But-
name?
Uh-oh. Shia LaBeouf, you mean?
That's it, Sheila Beef. Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about. There was never an Indiana Jones movie with Shia
there was
LaBeouf
never
in.
This is the 4th film, anyway.
This
so
is
yeah.
well, it's the next film. It doesn't matter what number it is.
All right.
It's next and probably last. But yeah, like I just thought it was great. Like I remember before I went to see it, Neil, you went to see it, and you warned me as we were talking at the end of a podcast to say like, there's a bit at the end of the movie which might pull you out of it, so just be prepared, sort of thing. And I was just like, oh, all right. So I did go in there with it. But if you go with it, it's kind of it leads to the character. It leads to Indiana Jones' his character. You get a bit of an insight. I mean, I think there's better ways they could handle that. But as a movie, on the whole, it was like 99% Indiana Jones. I'm a huge fan of the other movies, however many there are, and annoyingly, I actually went to the press premiere of the one that doesn't exist. And really, and really enjoyed it.
How were the non-existent canapes?
They were really great. I got free popcorn and water, and we all had to surrender our phones. And I sat next to famous people, and and John Hurt introduced the whole thing. It was very, very cool. So I've got fond memories of that movie from that side
because of that.
as well, because of that, and because I went with a buddy. But like it was. I mean, we're talking about our favorite movies of this year, and this is the only Indiana Jones movie I'm getting this year, so therefore it is my favorite Indiana Jones movie of this year. Like the action was great. They did some nods to the other movie bits and pieces. They went back into the world of him, like Lara Crofting his way through a few traps and stuff, which I really enjoy.
Hey, yeah.
I say Lara Crofting, but obviously that Lara Croft got it from the first Indiana Jones movies. So that shows you how much it's it manipulated the zeitgeist.
The great segue is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who plays Helena's goddaughter, is actually going to make the next Tomb Raider.
Oh, really?
Franchise. But I don't know if she's going to star in it. I think I saw an interview of her about it. She's like, I'm like really bad at action. And so they said, that's fine. That's exactly what we need for this character. You don't actually have to be good at action. So just however bad it looks, that's exactly what we're going to go with.
Interesting.
And she's like, okay.
She's going to be the next Tomb Raider?
No, she's going to write it, produce it, and direct it.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Like, I mean, just by her performance in this,
I loved her character in it.
Yeah, I thought she was wicked. I remember you saying again that you like every once in a while you expect her to turn to camera and do a Fleabag, like piece the camera, just like I can't believe Indy's at his old tricks again, like that kind of shit. But like, there's brilliant moments in it, and I love the fact that her character keeps you on the edge of your seat a little bit. In that, like, you think that they've bonded, and then she goes off and like tries to sell him down the river and stuff, and she's truly like out for herself, which is really great for an Indiana Jones movie, because the Indiana Jones that I love is him against pretty much everybody else. Like he's like, there are people that want to sell him down the river, whether that be friend or foe, and it just matters on the circumstances that he finds himself in. So, and
of course we had some great Nazis who needed punching in the face.
Yes.
Mads Mikkelsen, although being Danish, brilliant German Nazi in this.
Yeah. And who's the guy that plays his like main henchman?
He is the guy from The Sandman who plays Corinthian.
And also
whose name I can't remember.
And also there
was a giant dude, wasn't it?
Wolverine. He was in he was in Logan, wasn't he? He was the bad guy in Logan.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, well, he was the other one. They were three. Got bad guy from Logan, massive big guy, the Corinthian from The Sandman, and Hannibal Lecter. Yeah.
He's played some pretty bad guys.
Very bad guys. Right, I think that's enough for Indiana Jones, because as he rides off into the sunset, we ride on to Jose's number 4. Yeah, Jose's number 4.
My number 4 was Oppenheimer. I liked it. Great movie. Wasn't top 3, which I was expecting it to be, but I think it was a great movie. And I probably won't watch it again anytime soon.
And at number 4, my number 4, we're also going to skip ahead back to David just to like make him do stuff, because it's a creator, which we just talked about at length. So scrolling back up to the top of the list, and David,
oh dear,
your number 3 is
it was Guardians of the Galaxy,
which we've done, so we can skip ahead to Ben again. And this is one film that isn't on anyone else's list, so you have to talk about it.
Boom!
What's your
Brilliant.
number 3, Ben?
Love it. This was one of the movies that made me laugh the most this year. It was Battle of the Nicholases. Movie called Renfield. Nicholas Hoult shines for me specifically in this like loser makes good underdog story of Renfield, who is Dracula's manservant. It's phenomenally well acted by both Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, in that Nicholas Hoult plays the downtrodden Renfield, who's made some questionable life choices and is now the manservant of Dracula. You know, and he's doing his very best to now serve the Dark Lord by only bringing in bad guys. And so he's trying to balance out his good, you know, his karma with the good versus evil thing. But it's like it's a really interesting twist on like that classic kind of bully story, you know, like Dracula's bullying him into being his manservant. But then
I saw the trailers and it was really funny.
As you watch the movie, it gets deeper into that story, and it's like, well, actually, he made the choice and he left his family to serve Dracula and stuff. So he's kind of brought a lot of it on himself. So you see him go through that arc. He meets the
and then he meets the police officer Aquafina,
who not really changes his mind, but she calls him a hero, and that's what triggers him to think that he can be better than, you know, just this guy who's serving Dracula.
He has these little beetles in a jar, doesn't he? In a little tin, and if he eats them, he gets like powers for a little bit.
He gets like Dracula-esque powers, like super strength and speed and stuff like that. If he eats a bug, but it's if he eats anything that's alive, right? It's blood that gives him that power, and when he gets beaten up, it's Dracula's blood that keeps him from dying. So Dracula will, like, you know, feed him his blood, and then he can be healed. But the comedy,
and this is a bloody film.
Oh yeah, it's gore-mongous, man. Like it's ridiculous. Like there's a point at which Nicholas Hoult pulls a guy's arms off and actually beats another guy up with them. Like, you know, it's it's fucking ridiculous, and it's so over the top, but it also delivers this really fun kind of message about, like, you know, what it is to be under someone's boot, as it were, and then break free of that. But, you know, like there's moments in it where I really, really feel for the character, like the titular character, and then there are moments where you're like, well, you fucking did this to yourself, bro. So, like, you know, whatever. And it's Aquafina's,
it balances it really well, doesn't it?
He does, yeah. And it's Aquafina's kind of like cop that plays like almost like a misguided conscience, in that, like, she's trying to figure out she's figured out who killed her father, I believe it is. And she's chasing down this drug gang, and then they get embroiled in the whole Dracula thing, and like you know, the whole thing becomes this you know, like, who's serving Dracula best and who's gonna kill him and stuff like that. So, but along the way, there are hilarious moments that, if I even start to go into them and you haven't seen the movie, I will steal some of the laughs from you, and I don't want that for anybody that watches this movie. I cannot recommend it enough for the movie that made me laugh the most this year.
Oh wow,
that's high praise.
It
as
is.
Nicolas Cage would say. Yeah, I mean, I loved it when I saw it in the cinema, man. I was just like, and there was not hardly anyone there. I was like, why are we not people watching this film? It's gory as fuck, as Ben said. I mean, there's like a fight scene outside a block of flats, and it's just the impalings and just stuff going through people, and people going.
That's the bit with the arms. I talked about, like, you know, I haven't even touched on the fact that Nicolas Cage is in this movie and plays probably one of the like the defining Draculas of all time. Like,
so
you put that version of Dracula up against any, like, it's a comedy movie and he plays it straight, and it's fucking excellent. The way that they juxtapose this like incredibly intense straight Dracula that does have comedic moments, but because he's playing it straight,
makes it funny.
They come off funnier. Like,
would you say he really chews up the scenery?
Very clever.
Sorry, that's
very good.
I couldn't help myself.
I'll tell you who does chew up the scenery is one of the baddies in it, Teddy Lobo, played by Ben Schwartz, John Ralphio from Parks and Rec. But usually he plays like the doofus guy, but he's actually pretty fucking evil in this, which I liked.
But yeah, he's also that, like, that again. It's like he plays another bully, doesn't he? He plays he plays like the son of like a drug czar, and you know, and he's going around bullying people, and then like Renfield's character, Nicholas Holt's character Renfield, takes him down a peg or two the first time he meets him, and he goes sniveling back to his mother, who is the drug czar. And it's like the whole thing is an allegory for bullying and then stuff that, like, we've all kind of experienced in our lives, and it's just it does it from so many different angles as well. Like, it's really, really smart.
Nice.
So what Ben's saying is, if you haven't seen Renfield, everyone, go and see it.
Indeed.
I think any Nicolas Cage movie, he's been knocking out of the park lately.
He's on fire, man. We reviewed Dream Scenario on an episode a few episodes back, and he was brilliant in that.
Yeah.
Do you think Cage has got to the part in his career where he's like, he's done everything that he wants to do. He's achieved everything that he kind of can achieve with awards and so on and so forth. And he's in that I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks.
I think he's been in that zone for about a decade.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love watching actors in that period of their life. Like Brad Pitt right now, he's like, I can do what the fuck I want. I don't care.
Cage actually said in a recent, like the last couple of weeks, that he feels like he's done everything he can do, and he's maybe only got 3 or 4 films left in him. And the whole world and internet were like, no. He goes, so he's like, so I'm thinking about trying TV.
Oh, okay.
So more Cage in your face on a regular basis. That's only going to be good. Honestly, I think he's got an outside shot at getting an Oscar nomination for Dream Scenario. I don't think he will, but if they had their long lists for Oscar performances, they're like, okay, he's pretty fucking good in this. Moving on to Jose, your number 3, which is...
My number 3 was Guardians of the Galaxy. We already spoke about it, so we can move on.
He said with a sigh of resignation, really wanted to talk about it just a little bit more, but Neil's not making him because we've been here for almost 2.5 hours.
Yes.
And my number 3 is Saltburn. Now, this is another potential Oscar film, and it's from the first British woman to be nominated for an Oscar, Emerald Fennell. She made The Searing Promising Young Woman back in 2020, which was one of our films of the year back then. Saltburn's her sophomore effort as she writes, directs, and produces. And this is a real blackly dark comic drama about class warfare, starring the Banshees of Inisherin's Barry Cohen.
Well done on the name pronunciation there. We're not going to get screwed. Like, you know how much people hate us for pronouncing that name.
In Ireland,
yeah. Well,
your friend Pam sent us a voice note on how to correctly pronounce his name. So I feel like we've got it down now. So yeah, the plot basically is he plays a young guy called Oliver Quick, which does definitely sound like a spin-off from The Flash, but he's not. And he's a scholarship student at Oxford in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he's like the scholarship kid, so he's kind of having trouble fitting in with all the rich elite assholes there. He's constantly rubbing shoulders with them. And then he befriends one of the super rich boys there called Felix Catton, played by Jacob Elordi. And as they break for the summer holidays, Felix invites Oliver to spend the summer living with him and his family at their palatial countryside manor, Saltburn. He accepts, and then he really starts to enjoy the upper-class lifestyle. And that's as much as I'm going to say about the plot. But I will say this film goes to some dark, pitch-black fucking places. It has some truly shocking scenes in it that made the audience audibly gasp in the screening. There's certain elements in scenes where you're like, they're not going to fucking do that. No, there's no way. Oh, they've not only done it, they fucking done it and waved at it from across the road.
I've heard that it really pushes the boundaries of sex scenes. Like what's I haven't seen it, but like during sex scenes, like really like on the verge.
There's definitely some fucked up shit in this film. It's the nicest way I can say it. It's definitely something you will not want to watch with any older family members in the room.
Oh.
But Keoghan again is amazing in this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a Best Actor nomination from this after he got a Best Supporting nod for Banshees last year. Like his performance, his performance pulls you in, and he absolutely shocks you.
I heard Carey Mulligan's in it, and she's unrecognizable as a character.
I did not recognize Carey Mulligan was in it. I was like, oh, I know all these actors, and then there's like a side character, and I was like, who's on it? And I was like, shit, that was Carey Mulligan, who's like the star. So I mean, again, what chameleonic actress that you didn't even recognize her in the next film.
I actually have a proper crush on Carey Mulligan, so now I gotta watch this movie.
Oh, if she's listening.
Hey,
get that restraining order. Get that restraining order, Carey. Because of the time period, there's some really great late 90s, early 2000s needle drops in it. And honestly, the one I will give away is you'll never be able to listen to Sophie Ellis-Bextor's Murder on a Dance Floor the same way ever again. And not in the way you think you will. Like, because you obviously think, oh, it's going to be a murder, right? Murder on a Dance Floor, there'll be a murder. No, it's not that. It's something... Holy fuck is all I can say for that scene.
Wow.
I will say Rosamund Pike and Richard E. Grant are in it playing the rich kid's parents. They are amazing. She's like the ice cold Lady Elspeth, and he plays Sir James Catton. Pike is excellent. She just is such a brutal, self-involved performance. She's just so withering with every line. Like she has the best lines in the whole film. This is a massive recommendation for me. It's hilarious. It's very, very dark. It's dramatic. It's shocking. It's absolutely riveting because as you're watching the film, you're thinking, is it going to go this way? Is it going to go that way? And it keeps you guessing to the very end of the film.
Would you say this is very British?
Oh, very, very British, Jose. Yeah. When you watch it, you'll just be like, for references, be like, is that a thing? And we'll be like, we don't know. We're British, but we're poor British. So we still don't actually know how this works.
No, I just remember when we even heard the announcement, we started talking about it. You're like, this looks very British. And it just made me laugh.
Is there any animal cruelty in it?
Not
From like,
that I'm aware of that I can remember. Nothing. that
okay,
jumps
okay,
at me.
cool. Okay,
I've
Just
solved this on you now, haven't I, David?
yeah. Now that you've told me that there's no animal cruelty, because you're upper class, there's like hunting and stuff,
Oh no,
and
no.
I don't like that. I'm very
The
sensitive.
only the smartest game is hunted.
In France, she would be known as Le Renard
Yes.
and hunted with only her cunning to save her.
Yeah.
You always got quotes off the chain today, Neil. Well done.
Rosamund Pike is awesome, I think, because she does Cold and Wicked so well.
I mean, she's got a type now, hasn't she? After Gone Girl, and then We Care a Lot, and then this. So,
You say that
yeah.
I watched a movie with her and David Tennant in on it's her, Rosamund Pike, David Tennant, and Billy Connolly. I watched it this year. It's on Amazon Prime. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's a brilliant movie. She plays a loving mother in and she's divorcing David Tennant, and her and her kids go to their David Tennant's dad's but retirement or birthday celebration, and Billy Connolly plays the dad, and Billy Connolly takes the kids out for a day trip, and he dies on the beach, and it's all about
Spoiler.
Yeah. I haven't told you the title of the movie yet, so it's not really a spoiler of anything.
Oh, right.
I could be pitching like fuck right now. And she plays the dead opposite of that, and she is phenomenal. I really believed her as this like woman who feels like she's trapped in a relationship or has to do this thing to keep her husband happy and just to make the divorce easier on the kids. So she doesn't always play that character, and she has got more range than that, in my opinion.
She's also the best person in the Wheel of Time show, as the star name, as Moraine. Yeah,
I was about to ask.
yeah,
She's also the only actor anyone's heard of in the Wheel of Time, to be fair.
yeah, exactly.
All
Yeah,
the
so
money
she
went
kind of has
on.
to be the best thing.
And we're now down to our top twos. David, what do you have at number 2?
I have The Bomb, which was Oppenheimer.
Which we've discussed already, and we'll be moving swiftly on to Ben, which is your number 2, which is not on anyone else's list. So
Yeah, couldn't be more opposite than Oppenheimer. It's the Super Mario Brothers movie. I fucking loved this film. It's a me, a Mario, and he's getting it done in a Brooklyn Plumber style. For me, this was like a nostalgic romp of epic proportions, tying in so many Nintendo properties for potential spin-offs. And it's the story. Does it matter? I don't know. It's Mario saving Princess Peach. He gets drawn into the Mushroom Kingdom, and he has an amazing time. He has to eat a mushroom which he doesn't like, and he grows big, and he does the whole thing. Everyone's played the game. It's fucking brilliant. But it's just not complicated. Turn your brain off and just enjoy the nostalgia of it. Like Jack Black owns this movie as Bowser. He could actually be nominated for an Oscar.
I think he will be nominated for an Oscar
for Peach. Like the
Peach,
song.
Peach,
I mean, everybody knows it, and you've never heard the song, and you already know it. It's that good. But it's just. I mean, like even in the press for this movie, Jack Black was like turning up in a Bowser onesie. Like it was just phenomenal. Like you can tell he had a whale of a time. Like it's also like massively successful. Nintendo really don't seem to be able to do anything wrong. Like they're the most successful video games company of all time. This movie cost $100 million to make, which is a horrendous amount of money for anything to cost. But it grossed $1.36 billion in the global box office.
There we
go. You could quite easily have cast anybody else as Mario. Chris Pratt doesn't need to have another like voice acting role. Like what is he at the moment? Like doing Garfield next?
he's filling in for David on the next podcast as well.
He's filling it, yeah, because he just needs the work.
But he will be sounding like David.
Well,
his method.
That's handy. So yeah, I mean, you could have pulled him out and done a different like voice actor there, but it wouldn't have mattered because. Yeah. Like Charlie Day as Luigi was genius. Genius casting. Anna Taylor-Joy like blows it out of the park as Princess Peach. Like I didn't even know it was her. Like I had no idea. I looked when the credits rolled, and I was like, "Who's playing Peach?" Oh shit, it's Anna Taylor-Joy.
John made me laugh when I saw the trailer come out, and you see like Princess Peach like gearing up, and there was actual comments, serious comments from basement dwellers,
sexist human beings.
No. Princess Peach is supposed to be saved by Mario. Why is Princess Peach saving Mario? I was like, because it's the fucking year 2023 and not 1943, you dumbass.
Yeah, that. So yeah, like it was a really good juxtaposition. Like, don't use that word again. It was really good. It was just
melange.
I don't want to use that word either. It was just really well balanced. Like they didn't overdo it with any one property. Like, you know, they leave a little Yoshi, literally a Yoshi Easter egg.
I was like, where's Yoshi? Where's Yoshi? I want Yoshi. And
like, you get a field of them. Like, you know, they cleverly weave like how the character deals with like each bad guy. They cleverly weave that from the video game into the movie. You know, like jumping on Goombas and stuff like that, and being this kind of like being this unlikely plumber based hero. And like
unlikely plumber-based hero.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Mario Kart scene for me, I had chills watching it because it was so nostalgic. It was just brilliant. Like
everyone's played Mario Kart, man.
I mean, it was just brilliant. They like the Donkey Kong bit. I mean, it's Fred Armisen, isn't it? Fred Armisen, sorry.
No.
Oh,
who plays Cranky Kong? He plays Cranky Kong.
Oh, Cranky Kong. I thought you meant like Donkey Kong was by Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, yeah. So, you know, like they've got some real talent in there, like voicing these game icons who you should know if you're at least my age, you know, which is.
And they use the Beastie Boys.
I mean, I know
No
you love
till Brooklyn.
I know you love a soundtrack tie-in, and you think that
at least they were in Brooklyn having the fight when it was playing, right? It made more sense than when they did it in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when they're in space. I was like, but yeah, again, it's a great song. I always love it.
It is. And, you know, like when Mario and Luigi get the superstar at the end, again, I was like, this is chills. And they use all the music from the original game. It's just fucking brilliant.
And what about the most bizarre bit of the film, which I loved? Was it the star in the cage that it was like Forts of Death star in the cage?
For no reason. For no reason. There's this the little star, but it's not really like a star that I recognize from any of the games or anything.
No.
But it's just like the most. It's got like a lovable kid's voice. It's ridiculous. Everyone's in cages, and
there's no hope.
Yeah,
no escape. I don't know actually the words. It was kind of what it was saying.
Paraphrasing the cute star that.
I was right there, Neil. You got me there.
It was great. You should watch it for that alone.
In the zone.
Absolutely watch it for that alone. But yeah, that was it for me. I mean, I know probably I don't think it's made it onto anybody else's list, but like I found it a really enjoyable just experience all around. I think it was great.
It didn't make my list because I didn't watch it. I'm sorry.
I think you should give it a go.
I will. There's a lot of movies on these lists that I'm gonna have to go back and just take the time out.
Yeah, there is, Jose. That's it. That's what holidays are for. Now, Jose, what do you have at number 2?
My number 2 is Barbie. So let's go into it.
How about let's not?
There we go.
Skip to the end.
Good movie.
Great movie. My number 2 is the only French film out of any of ours, and that is Anatomy of a Fall. And it's a 2.5-hour French courtroom drama. But hear me out. I can see everyone turning off their brains already. It's directed by Juliette Trier, and it stars a woman called Sandra Hüller, who handily is also called Sandra in the film. And her husband falls out of a chalet window to his death, and she's accused of his murder. Now, the film develops into this gripping courtroom drama as we, the audience, have to decide, did he jump or was he pushed? And central to the story is her son, Daniel, played superbly by a young actor called Milo Macedo-Graner. And he's partially blind in the film, so he has an awesome seeing eye dog called, I forget the name of the dog, but the dog's called Snoop in the film, and in real life, the dog is called Messi, and he literally won the Palm Dog at Cannes. They gave the dog an award at Cannes because he's that good in the film. Honestly, like, you know, like when dogs just usually in the film, they're acting, it's just like, they turn their head to the right direction. You're like, that's some fucking great dog acting. In this one, in this film, the dog will like walk into a scene and like look at the woman and like crawl up onto the bed next to her and like lie down. It's like the soulfulness in his eyes, man. Honestly, it's one of the best dog performances of all time. But it's also stunningly performance by the two main actors, like I say, the woman and her son. The kid in it was 12 at the time of filming, and it's insane. I think he's 14 now, but he was 12 and gave this level of performance in it. And also, the kid's not blind, but he plays it in the film. Because I was like, oh, if they cast like a partially sighted actor, or
I thought you just gave away a really big twist.
I'm amazed that Neil's amazed by this kid who is an actor acting.
Well, no, because you know how like these Yeah, okay. Also,
He's not actually blind, guys. He's not blind.
I was amazed. The lead actress in it, Sandra Hüller, she could be on course for 2 Best Actress nominations this year. And again, she's 45 from Austria, and I don't think anyone's heard of her before. She did like a small indie foreign film called Tony Erdmann a few years ago that everyone raved about, but let's face it, no one saw. And she's in this, which this definitely will be up for like Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. And she's in a World War II drama coming out next year by a British director called Jonathan Glazer. And it's called The Zone of Interest, about the guy who lives next door to Auschwitz and is the guy who runs it. And it's how his family live next door. So, yeah, that's coming out here next year. And she plays that guy's wife. And everyone's like, yeah, she could get an Oscar for that as well. So, never heard of before. Then 2 Oscar performances in the year. I've mentioned Snoop. He's brilliant. Also, at the start of he's the best dog I've seen in the film since Boy in Love and Monsters, which is just the other best dog. He saves that guy 3 times from certain death. That's a good boy. Best boy.
Okay, who wins the Oscar? The dog, the boy, or the girl from The Creator?
Oh, you can't compare a young girl, a young boy, and a dog, Jose.
I mean,
I
you seem
think that's
to
what
be
the
impressed by all.
Yeah, they compare everybody's acting jobs and give them awards based on those jobs. I don't think that's an unfair question for Jose to ask. Answer the damn question, Gregory. Answer it now.
Okay, would the dog give a better performance in The Creator as the young girl?
No, we're talking about.
Don't talk nonsense. You don't do that in the Oscars either, do you? You don't compare. Right? Hang on. Would Denzel Washington give a better performance in this movie? So should we give him the Oscar for an imaginary thing that he could have done? Answer the damn question.
This is how I'm going to answer it. There's a brilliant earworm at the start of the film, and it's 50 Cent's Pimp, but a steel drum instrumental version.
I don't know why you don't want to just give someone an Oscar. I don't know what your problem is. I don't know where you're hiding from this.
You know what?
Responsibility.
I say the dog wins because that dog is at a much more disadvantage.
He doesn't know that he's acting.
He's not actually blind, Jose. The kid's not blind. He's not disadvantaged in any way.
Oh, you get it now, Neil. I see. All right.
Look, this is one of those films that will win a few Oscars, and it'll be the one that no one's ever heard of when you see the clips played. And it's a shame because it's a truly superb film. Like, as courtroom dramas go, it's just mastered the art form. You're like, right, that's it. Because you don't know until the final scenes of the film, did she do it or not?
And then you find out it was the little blind boy that did it.
It was the dog.
No.
Spoiler. He was a bad boy.
I got confused. I thought the dog was a blind boy. I don't get it now.
It was a dog called Blind Boy. Right, that was my number 2. And that brings us to...
Number ones.
Number one.
Yeah.
Mine we've already touched on.
Mine too.
Dungeons and Dragons.
So David's number 1 was Dungeons and Dragons. Ben.
Mine was a creator.
Jose, your number 1 was...
Across the Spider-Verse.
And mine wasn't any of those, so unfortunately you're going to have to listen to me for a little bit.
I actually know. I'm really looking forward to this. I've heard...
Review or just a film?
Looking both.
Is this recency bias as well?
I think it could be a little bit of recency bias, but then I feel like once I watched the film, I was like, that was... Well, let's tell people what the film is first, shall we? My number 1 film of the year is literally something I saw this week on the Monday as we record this, and that was Godzilla -1. Stomping in like a giant radioactive monster, using its atomic breath to incinerate all the opposition films. It's Godzilla -1, man. It was written and directed by Takashi Yamazaki. What a fucking film. I had no idea this film was even a thing until the last few weeks when our American and Canadian friends on Twitter started praising the film. Currently, it has a 97% critics rating and a 98% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't even know this was a period film. Like, when I saw the brief bit of the trailer, because I wasn't really paying attention. I was like, Japanese Godzilla film, bothered. And I just thought this was going to be like a modern Godzilla, because it's a 70-year anniversary of Godzilla this year. So I was like, okay, it's just going to be another
he looks good for 70, didn't he?
Fucking does he, man? And it's a modern. And I thought it's going to be a modern day Godzilla film with him just like rampaging around Tokyo, but no, it's a 1940s film set at the end of World War II. So imagine a cross between a Japanese World War II film about a failed kamikaze pilot called Koichi Shikishima looking for honor after the war, but he can't get honor because the war's over and he was a fucking coward. So this is all at the very start of the film.
So he's a kamikaze pilot who didn't die in a...
Who didn't die.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. And then you cross that film with Jaws, but you replace Jaws with a terrifying Godzilla who will absolutely fuck your shit up. There's so many scenes in the water of boats and Godzilla just fucking like dun 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 dun, dun coming closer, like really giving into the full like water lizard element of it, man.
What's he
But
humming?
I
What was he humming there?
Huh?
That was terrible.
that was John Williams' classic Jaws theme tune done in. No, I'm not even going to go there. Look, I was blown away by this film, man. It was made to celebrate 70 years of Godzilla movies, and if you think about it, really no one bar the Japanese should make a Godzilla film because the creation of the film was a byproduct of its shared horrific atomic history of Japan. What this film does right that Hollywood gets wrong every time it tries to do Godzilla, it crafts a story where we care about our main characters, and then you add in Godzilla to mess shit up. Also, apparently, and this is crazy, it only cost $15 million, which is insane for how great this film looks. Of course, there are the unsubstantiated stories out there that, yes, because it was the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, the people working on the film were basically worked into an inch of our life. But obviously, we've got no way to corroborate that.
That is insane for like the effects that you've just seen, like the trailers.
Yeah.
Like, how much was an episode of She-Hulk?
More than the whole budget of
Oh.
this film, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like
One episode costs more than this movie.
Yeah,
She-Hulk.
easy.
yeah, that's insane.
That's what I heard.
I'll freely admit, right, I'd never seen a Japanese Godzilla film before this. So I did a bit of brief research. And if you are a fan, there is an absolute ton of old school references for the big fans in it. There's music cues, like the original music cue of Godzilla is used again in this film where he's in a city. And there's so many shots in this film that they've literally just ripped from the original 1954 film. There's like, obviously celebrating how great the original is and then showing it in a new light.
More of
And
a
look,
homage
this-
than anything else.
A homage. Now, this is a monster movie done right. It's not about throwing all the money on effects, although they are superb. It's about giving us an affecting personal story and just great characters. And then, like I say, adding in a giant atomic lizard who only wants to smash it up. As Scorsese would say, this is cinema.
I think there's something like poignant in having your number one be Godzilla and Oppenheimer being in our top tens over,
Oh, man, yeah.
there's something quite
I
poetic.
like to say, because it's made by the Japanese, clearly you can't say what it was like to be Japanese because you're literally the country that had to survive and come back and live through that. So go and see it.
For the record, there's actually a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, who they were sponsored by the movie, but they also they're kind of one of their main things was visual effects artists react, and they reacted to the graphics of this movie, and they said it was amazing, but like they had interviews of the special effects crew, and it seems like they planned out everything the same kind of effect the creator did, where they didn't
have to budget as much.
Yeah, so they knew what the kind of limits they were having, and yes, some of the specs I've heard are not great, but for the most part, it looks amazing.
No, there is nothing in it that I don't think holds up, man. Like
Really,
there's a bit where he uses his atomic breath in a city once, and that's enough. Like it's just absolute fucking devastation, man. When you look at the American Godzilla films, you don't get the larger sense of the wreckage. There's no, and this happens in all the big superhero films as well.
Mhm,
When there's all these big city-destroying fights, there's like, oh, by the way, there wasn't like 300,000 people killed in this, although clearly then would have been. And Godzilla, every time he attacks somewhere, it's just holy shit. I love how they, as well. It's kind of like this bit as well. Like Japan is basically by itself in it, and the way they come up to like, well, why isn't no one else like aware of this and helping out is really cleverly put into the script. But it does feel like Jaws in places because you have a lot of scenes taking place at sea. Like all their like ways to try and like attack Godzilla start on boats at sea, and you're like, this feels so much like fucking Jaws, man. So
They need a bigger boat at any point.
they needed 4 bigger boats. I'd say one of my. They needed a fleet and then an extra one. I mean, there's a okay. One little bit I'll mention. It's not really a spoiler because the shot's in the trailer, but there's a bit where they're like trying to concoct this plan to like take on Godzilla. Like, yes, the underwater research team is ready, sir. And like the other guys are in like their headquarters in the city, and then they look out the window and like a tanker, massive ship just flies through and crashes into the sea, and they're like, the underwater research team has been destroyed, sir. They come up with this brilliant plan to take on Godzilla, and Godzilla doesn't go along with the plan. He just fucks shit up. He is so honestly, it's the best Godzilla film you will ever see. I absolutely loved it, man.
Or is it in English?
No, it's subtitled in Japanese.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay. We should
And that is the
warn-
only way to see it.
I
No
think that's-
dubs.
I was about to say. I think I was about to say if it was in English or overdubbed, I feel that would pull me out of it a little bit. But if it's
It's
foreign
also
language,
not a
I'm gonna-
part of the MonsterVerse, is it? Like the Godzilla MonsterVerse. So it's all
Yeah, it's just it's the Japanese company that made it. Who like own Godzilla. It was like, we're going to do our own 70th year tribute, and it is amazing. Well, gentlemen, that brings us to the final ranking. Yes, I said ranking. Don't look at me that way, Jose. So first up in our top 10 films of the year, we have a tie, and at the last two places we have Saltburn and Renfield, a bloody carnage double bill. They were tied both on 8 points. We then have another tied on 9 points, Anatomy of a Fall and Super Mario Brothers. That is a double bill I wouldn't mind seeing sometime. French courtroom drama, and then Jack Black banging it out of the park on the piano. At number, we then have on 10 points, Godzilla -1.
just on its own.
Just on its own.
No, I'm
'Cause it was my number one
all
film,
for double
I've got
bills now. I want everything to be a double bill.
Yeah, you've got some more coming up, man. Next on 14 points, we have Dungeons and Dragons, which we all liked.
Yes.
And all gave
That
points except
that didn't make it onto my list, but still did really well.
Didn't make it on my list. Oh, no, it did. No, it didn't. It just
No.
moved off.
David and myself.
David and myself, which is Jose, both really loved it. We then on 15 points, we have Barbie.
Was that was on 3 lists, right?
3 lists, yep.
Yeah. We then have Across the Spider-Verse on 16 points, which was also on 3 lists.
Mm-hmm.
We then have a tie for second place, which is The Creator and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and they are tied
Robbed.
on
Ooh.
23 points.
High score, right?
Those both could be really well double feature.
And because Jose made me wait and went to see this film literally the night before we recorded this, Oppenheimer is our joint top film of the year with 24 points. 1 point over The Creator and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Wow.
So Jose is the spoiler. You are the one who influenced the poll the most ways.
Wow.
Okay, apparently Jose's turned into Owen Wilson. So
So
there you have it, folks.
all right.
Oppenheimer is the We Needed Roads combined #1 film of the year.
Yes. 5 points. 5 points.
By 1 point.
A very coveted award there.
Very coveted. The reward will be in the mail, and there will be no pictures of it on social media.
Whatever you do,
Doesn't actually
don't
exist.
call it first annual. Say inaugural like an adult.
Inaugural, like an
That's-
adult.
That's my
Oh.
journalism major shining right there. If it's
Sir,
first-
yes, sir.
so now we know which one that is the overall inaugural winner of the
Yes.
coveted We Needed Roads. Who
Film of the year.
who gives a fuck what we think film of the year? Can I ask each of you if you had to recommend one movie from your list for our listeners to go out there and watch? Only one. It doesn't have to be the top one. Which one would it
It's
be?
going to be.
Which
It's
one
not
would
for
it be?
me. Godzilla's -1.
do you want to assume that it's a film that people haven't seen, or just no matter
Just-
what?
Just whichever one you want to recommend. You want to put your
For me, that film is Godzilla -1.
No
Okay.
shit. All right, you never would have guessed that.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow the trend that Neil is setting. It's gonna be my #1 movie, Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's just a fun
Surely it would
movie.
just be everyone's #1s, wouldn't it?
See, mine's not.
Mine would
There's
be
a
Dungeons
flaw
and
in your plan
Dragons.
here.
Well, see, I'm just interested because, like, I mean, like it dawned on me earlier when David said that he is choosing the movies that he had an emotional reaction to,
Yeah.
as opposed to the ones that he said "quote unquote" were good. So I just wondered if that would correlate into anything. So
No,
David,
I think you're accurate though.
It does to some points.
because I would say out of my list, I would say go and see Renfield over everything else. Even though Creator is my #1, I would say that's the one where I think people are going to have the most
Oh,
enjoyment.
good. Yeah, I can see that.
Because David, did
Yeah.
you just say Dungeons and Dragons for yours?
Yeah, I mean, yes. To be fair, the Skinamarink film, which was my #10, is probably the one that I'd suggest seeing if you really want to watch something different,
Ah, there you go.
because it is just so experimental. Yeah,
I'm gonna write.
but
this down.
you none of you will probably like it. I can almost guarantee you'll all hate it. But that might be a reason to watch it.
I like bizarre shit.
I feel like I would be the only one that would dislike it.
Jose is going to be like, "What the fuck is this shit you've made me watch?"
I'll admit.
Look at my list
of
films. It's all like big budget action, like set pieces. Like a think piece like that would make me probably.
It's the tones. I think
I was about to say actually, if you go through our lists, we pretty much went with the most popular films of the year in terms of critical and commercial at the box office. Ben, you definitely went for box office and leaned hard into sci-fi. Jose, your list pretty much mirrors Ben's to quite a lot of points. Me, I went with the more art house Oscar bait affair, but looking by the judge of things. And I have honestly no idea what David's chaos list represents other than chaos and someone who was addicted to Baldur's Gate 3.
It represents entertainment and a little bit of horror.
A unique perspective on stuff.
And I'd like to thank my co-host today. I'd like to thank Jose.
I have a machine gun now.
And I'd like to thank Ben Lord.
I want a new nickname.
And of course, we finish with David.
I'm so confused. I don't know what's happening. What are we doing? What is this?
And we'll see you next time, folks. It's been epic. I need to lie down.
We Needed Roads.